Chapter 706. While Fang Qingshan was busy looting the treasure vault, the ruins market was also in full swing. Everyone who entered the ruins market, except for those from the Fate Court and the Origin Court who withdrew halfway, had made the trip worthwhile. This was especially true for the auction that followed. In order to make a name for the Five Elements ruins market and keep returning customers, Fang Qingshan took out some rare treasures. Some were exchanged from the treasure vault of the gods and demons. Some were from Fang Qingshan's own collection, and some were collected by opening the treasure bowl. Anyway, they were all very precious. The entire auction was so popular that everyone was generous. If it weren't for the warning given by the ruins market to the people of the Fate Court and the Heavenly Court, there would have been a fight or even a direct robbery. Before they knew it, the auction was over. A large number of guests came out again. Those who had obtained treasures were all beaming with joy, while those who had not obtained anything looked envious. At the same time, there was also a kind of excitement. After all, it was a completely different feeling to experience a top auction in person. Even if they did not obtain anything, it would still be a lot to talk about. At this time, it was also time for the ruins market to close. Of course, for most people, this was the time to leave. After all, if they did not take advantage of this time to leave, without the gate of the ruins market and the Five Elements Heavenly Stars token, it would not be so easy to return to their original place. Although they were reluctant to leave, they thought of the gains in their pockets and basically returned with a full load. Everyone could not help but feel excited. In particular, if there were no accidents in the immortal world, it was not impossible for them to break through to the Immortal King realm and even achieve eternal life in the future. On the other side, Fang Qingshan also quietly returned to the gate of the ruins market under the guidance of the Timeless Ark and walked out with the crowd. This time, his harvest was not small. In addition to the loot from the ruin market itself, the loot from the Fortune, Origin, and Realm of Pills forces alone had a broken destinable celestial artifact, 3 celestial items, the corpses of heavenly lords, and more than a handful of creation divine pills. There were also plenty of saint-grade celestial artifacts. As for saint-grade medicinal pills, heaven-grade spirit veins, king-grade celestial artifacts, and medicinal pills, they were as numerous as the stars in the sky. This time, not to mention helping Mosquito Darren break through to the primordial immortal realm, it would not be a problem to help Fang Qingshan break through as well. Immortal World, where the gate of the ruins market is located. The Fortune Heavenly Court and the Origin Dynasty occupied one side and surrounded the exit. The air was instantly filled with a cold, oppressive, and dignified aura. It was as if there was a real legendary deity overlooking the mortal world and supervising all living things. Why are they here? Shouldn't they be frantically investigating the theft of the treasury? There were 2 reasons. First, although they had investigated openly and secretly, they had not guessed the specific identity of the 2 people, and their divination of the heavenly secrets was even more vague. Therefore, they could only come here to see who had gone to the ruins market, then eliminate these people, and choose from the remaining people. The other reason was because of the opportunity in the ruins market. Although they had to withdraw from the ruins market midway because of their lair, but they still coveted the opportunity in the ruins market. It would be fine if everyone could not get it, but if they could not get it, others would get it, which was not good. Therefore, the purpose of surrounding this place was very clear. They clearly wanted to take advantage of the situation. If they were stronger than them, or if they were on equal footing, they could naturally leave unscathed. If they were not as strong as them, then they would have to hand over what they had obtained from the ruins market. Otherwise, the stronger fist was the hard truth, and the strong preyed on the weak was vividly reflected. Of course, in addition to the people of the Fortune Heavenly Court and the Origin Dynasty, there were also some people watching the show. Most of these people were not qualified to enter the ruins market, or they were qualified to enter, but because they were worried, they had been wandering around and missed the time. Although the ruins market did not have a clear entrance, those who could enter had to fulfill 2 requirements. First, cultivation. Those who had enough cultivation and could reach a certain level had means, wisdom, luck, opportunity, and collection, all of which could not be underestimated. Second, luck. Those who had enough luck would be favored by heaven and earth, and they would be successful in every endeavor. Such people were also welcome in the ruins market. What do you guys think the people of the Fortune Heavenly Court and the Origin Dynasty are doing? Who knows? Looking at their murderous looks, they can't be thinking of reaping the rewards, right? If that's the case, some people are going to be out of luck. What do you think the ruins market is like? Is it like they said, with unlimited opportunities? Of course. Otherwise, why would the people of the Origin Dynasty and the Fortune Heavenly Court appear here? Did you guys hear? The Fortune Heavenly Court and the Origin Dynasty were both robbed. I heard that the Origin Dynasty's pilgrimage altar was stolen, and the Fortune Heavenly Court's 33 Heaven Supreme treasure was lost. Really? Just as the people of the Fortune Heavenly Court and the onlookers were discussing, the ruins market's gate suddenly shook. The gate of the market suddenly shook, and a rainbow bridge hung down from the sky like a dragon. It was surrounded by colorful glazed light, and it was surrounded by mysterious sounds. One after another, people walked out of the ruins market. Great array, rise. Seeing the people walking out of the ruins market, the eyes of calamity, terror, and the others lit up, and they shouted in unison. In an instant, the heaven-suppressing ring, the heaven-covering wheel, the heaven-destroying sword, the heaven-dominating blade, the heaven-transforming staff, 33 supreme treasures manifested. They intertwined and overlapped, forming a heavenly court. It was the saint-grade celestial artifact that Calamity and the others had refined for countless years, the supreme treasure of the 33 heavens. On the other side, a diagram slowly unfolded. Scripture characters floated in midair and erupted with light, carrying an ancient will in the world. Scenes from the primordial times appeared within it. The great thousand worlds, mountains, rivers, grotesque and dazzling lights, the sun, moon, stars, plants, birds, beasts, mountains, rivers, veins, everything was between life and death. This item was the primordial battle map, a divine item that the primordial heavenly monarch had refined. Although it could not compare to the sky-burying coffin and the pilgrimage altar created by the Fortune Heavenly King and the Origin Celestial King, it was not much weaker than the instant king robe of the Pill Realm Master. With these two treasures sealing the space, coupled with the experts of the Origin Dynasty and the Fortune Heavenly Court, the people who had just come out of the ruins market were shocked. There was no time to think. Everyone took out their treasures and looked at Calamity and the others warily. Calamity, Terror, what are you doing? Are you going to become enemies with the entire heavenly realm? The others were afraid of them, but the people of the truth sacred land were not. The heavenly Lord of Tao and Virtue stepped forward and shouted. Chapter 707. Going against the entire heavenly realm? I'm afraid you can't represent the entire heavenly realm. Terror glanced at Dowda and snorted coldly. Then, he ignored him and looked around before speaking in a deep voice. I believe that all of you who have entered the ruins market should know what the opportunities are like. As long as you enter, your trip will not be in vain. However, opportunities are as unpredictable as fate. Everyone has obtained opportunities, but the size of the opportunities is a problem. That's right. At this moment, Calamity took over the conversation and continued. According to the opportunities in the ruins market, breaking through to the heavenly monarch realm should be a piece of cake. Breaking through to the immortal king realm should not be a difficult task. It might even be possible to prove one's Tao and attain eternal life. At this point, although the people who came out of the ruins market looked uncertain, they did not say anything. On the other hand, the people who were watching the show outside were in an uproar. Breaking through to the heavenly monarch realm is a piece of cake? How is that possible? That's right. Even the Origin Dynasty with the pilgrimage altar can't guarantee it. Moreover, no one in the heavenly realm has broken through to the heavenly monarch realm since the Battle King, Heavenly Monarch Mu Yehuan. Heavenly Monarch is nothing. They said that breaking through to the immortal king realm is not a difficult task. It's not just breaking through to the immortal king realm. They said that it might even be possible to prove one's Tao and attain eternal life. What a joke. If breaking through to eternal life is so easy, why hasn't anyone succeeded after so many years? Perhaps they aren't lying. Look at those people who came out of the ruins market. They don't seem to refute it. Yes, Dauda and the others did not refute it. The opportunities in the ruins market could indeed help people break through to the heavenly monarch realm, immortal king realm, and even attain eternal life. According to the information they obtained in the ruins market, the eternal life they had always thought was only at the zenith heaven realm. Above the zenith heaven realm, there were demi-saints and sages. Those were the true invincibility. Above sages, there were even supremes and eternity. Even if these things are true, so what? After a moment of silence, the dragon realm's seven-color dragon lord asked impatiently, "Terror, calamity, what exactly are you trying to say?" "What?" "Terror, desolation, and calamity." Eternal and the others looked at each other and smiled. If the fortuitous encounter you obtained only allows you to break through to the immortal king realm, or even to the heavenly monarch realm, and is of no benefit to your own cultivation, while others, some of your enemies, people you once looked down on, obtain fortuitous encounters that allow them to break through to the immortal king realm, or even attain eternal life, what do you think? Hearing this, some of the people who were already at the top of the pyramid immediately trembled. If the fortuitous encounter he obtained was not very helpful to him, but others obtained great fortuitous encounters and could surpass him in a short period of time, it would be fine if these people did not have any entanglements with him. At most, they would be envious and jealous of him. But if they were his enemies, just thinking about it made him shudder. Moreover, they were used to being at the top of the mountain and looking down on all the other mountains. Who would be willing to let others chase them down and turn from looking down to looking up at them? Thinking of this, people like Dauda, Rainbow, and the others swept their gazes at those with lower cultivation bases than them, and even those who were their enemies, with traces of killing intent in their eyes. They were not the only ones whose expressions began to change. Everyone's expressions began to change. This was especially so for those with lower cultivation bases who obtained great fortuitous encounters. At this moment, they were even more uneasy. They hated the people of the Fortune Heavenly Court and Origin Dynasty so much that their teeth itched. They wanted to drink their blood, eat their flesh, and sleep on their skin. At the same time, they secretly made up their minds. If they were lucky enough to escape this calamity, they would definitely make them pay a heavy price. Destroying one's fortuitous encounters was like killing one's parents. In fact, it was even more serious than killing one's parents. Although the people of the Fortune Heavenly Court and Origin Dynasty did not know what the people of the Fortune Heavenly Court and Origin Dynasty were thinking, once they decided to do this, they already knew the consequences. However, they did not care much about this. This was because they had decided to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots to prevent future troubles. If they did not do this, once they digested the fortuitous encounters, the situation would change. At that time, they would probably be meat on the chopping block. Most importantly, the foundation treasures of their two forces had been lost. If they did not obtain any fortuitous encounters, it would only be a matter of time before the Fortune Heavenly Court and Origin Dynasty fell. Therefore, they needed to take the initiative. If they did this, even if there were fish that escaped the net, they believed that after they digested the fortuitous encounters, they would definitely improve further. At that time, even if someone wanted to take revenge, they would not be afraid. Are you saying that all of us have to hand over our fortuitous encounters and share them with you? At this moment, Fang Qingshan stood up and sneered. He had to admit that Terror, Calamity, and the others were smart. They actually thought of this idea in such a short period of time. Not only could they find out who was the most suspicious, but they could also weaken the impact of the treasures being stolen. They could also make up for the fortuitous encounters that they had lost and suppress the growth of a portion of them, killing two birds with one stone, as expected of the old fox that killed the Fortune Heavenly Court and Origin Dynasty. After hearing Fang Qingshan's words, morality, terror, and the others looked at Calamity, Terror, and the others suspiciously. Seeing that it was Fang Qingshan again, Calamity's eyes darkened. However, he also knew that this was not the time. He could only take a deep breath, suppress the killing intent in his heart, and slowly said, "Of course not. As long as their forces are on the same level as ours, not only do they not need to use the fortuitous encounters, they can even share with us. As for those who are one level lower, they can just hand over a portion, and the rest is all." Hearing this, Fang Qingshan could not help but secretly applaud. Splitting up, roping in, beating up one group, pulling in another group. His methods were extremely smooth. As expected, after hearing Calamity and the others' words, the eyes of Morality and the others instantly lit up. Previously, they had already been encouraged by Terror and the others. They did not want those who had been suppressed by them to grow up to be on the same level as them, and even have to look up to them. Moreover, if they could obtain more fortuitous encounters, who would not be willing? Good. Calamity's words make sense. I agree. The people from the Truth's sacred land were the first to respond. This really proved that there were no eternal enemies in this world, only eternal benefits. Following that, some forces that were on the same level as the Fortune Heavenly Court also responded. The fortuitous encounters in the world are obtained by fate. Why should we hand them over to you? An itinerant Heavenly Lord stood out with a gloomy face and said arrogantly, "The fortuitous encounters in the world are indeed obtained by fate. However, there is another saying, the fortuitous encounters in the world belong to the strong." Calamity said loudly, "The weak are prey to the strong. You are weaker than us, and that is the original sin." At this point, Calamity directly tore apart his face and threatened them openly. Hand over the fortuitous encounters and live. Otherwise die. As soon as the word die was said, the atmosphere in the entire space froze. Chapter 708. Humph! I didn't expect that the Heavenly Court of Fate, the Origin Dynasty, and the Heaven Realm would be so brazen as to plunder. It's an eye-opener for me. At this time, the only ones whose power and strength were on par with Calamity and the others were Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Darren. Haha, you just crying crocodile tears. The Great Path is fighting. As long as there's a chance to prove the way and achieve eternal life, anyone would be willing to sacrifice the entire heavens, let alone plunder. In the face of Fang Qingshan's sarcasm, Doubtus said unabashedly, "This was not false. The Great Path was alone, and the Great Path was fighting. It was a matter of opportunity. If it could really prove the way, it was not impossible for people to massacre the world. It should be known that Cao Cao could say that he would rather betray the world than the world betray him, let alone these cultivators. Heaven and earth were really heartless, treating all things as dogs. Usually, it was not a big deal if it was not related to the Great Path. Once it was related to the Great Path, it would not be too much to do anything, not to mention snatching the opportunity of others. In the desolation, what about the ancient dragon and phoenix calamities, the ancient sorcerer and demon calamities, and even the great god investiture tribulation? They were all for the Great Path. The dragon and phoenix calamities were because as long as they unified the desolation, they could prove the way and become saints. It was the same for the Taoist and demon calamities. If they succeeded, they could become saints. As for the great God investiture tribulation, it was just because Hao Yin was dissatisfied that the disciples of the three religions did not listen to his orders. In the end, it evolved into a tribulation that swept through most of the world, so much so that the world almost returned to chaos. Therefore, anything related to fortuitous encounters couldn't be taken lightly. Therefore, it was not surprising that the Origin Truth and the others would do such a thing. Fang Qingshan, which side are you on? Don't tell me you still want to stand up for them? Calamity said coldly. Although I don't like your behavior and don't want to be in cahoots with you, I won't do it for nothing. Fang Qingshan shook his head. Forget it. The sky will rain, and the mother will get married. Do as you wish. I want to accompany you. I'll leave first. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a thunderclap in the clear sky, as if a hole had been poked in the sky. The bow of the ship, like a bull's horn, came crashing down. It exuded an eternal aura. The Nirvana boat. Of course, This wasn't Huang Fu Baiden's saint-grade celestial artifact, but Feng Qingshan's timeless Arkansas rumble. As soon as the timeless ark appeared, the entire world trembled. Originally, because of the 33 Heaven Saint-grade immortal artifact and the battle diagram of desolation, which was a divine artifact of the heavens, the seal was airtight, like an inescapable net. But now, with a loud rumble, the space collapsed. I'm going. The timeless ark released a beam of divine light to receive Feng Qingshan and Mosquito Dowren. Then, the sky ship retreated, and in an instant, it disappeared without a trace. If it wasn't for the fact that Feng Qingshan and Mosquito Dowren had disappeared, and if the sealed space hadn't been opened, it would seem as if nothing had happened. Everything happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. It was so fast that no one could react. Everyone run. In a split second, those who had been depressed and didn't know whether they should fight to the death or lay down their arms and surrender. Although they had obtained a great fortuitous opportunity, their strength and influence couldn't compare to the fortune Heavenly Court's people. Suddenly, their eyes lit up like the first ray of light from the dawn of heaven and earth. For a moment, everyone was like the 8 immortals crossing the sea, each displaying their own abilities and all kinds of trump cards. In order to protect their fortuitous opportunity, they could be said to have risked their lives and used all their strength. Taking advantage of the opening of the sealed space, they frantically fled in all directions. Damn it! Disaster, Terror, Dowda, and the others were stunned by what had happened. When they regained their senses, their eyes were bloodshot, and smoke was coming out of their 7 orifices. These were all moving treasures and fortuitous opportunities. They were the great Tao, but now they had slipped away right under their noses. Disaster, Terror, Dowda, and the others were so angry that they wanted to ascend to the heavens. Chase, hurry, chase after them. Don't let them get away. Following that, everyone felt as if their butts were on fire. They exerted all their strength and chased after him crazily. Today, they'd originally intended to seize all of these fortuitous encounters so that they'd be able to advance a step further. But now, before they even got their hands on the fortuitous opportunities, they had already offended those people. If they couldn't get their hands on the fortuitous opportunities and eliminate those people, they would be in big trouble. Once these people digested the fortuitous opportunities, they would definitely soar to the sky. When that happened, their good days would be over. This was especially true for those from the good fortune Heavenly Court and Origin Dynasty. They didn't have any lucky chances, and they had also lost the 33 Heaven Supreme Good Fortune treasure, as well as the pilgrimage altar, a divine object of the heavens. With all of this going on, their future days could be imagined. Therefore, even though they hated Feng Qingshan and Mosquito Dowren so much that they wanted to fight them, they had to suppress their anger and deal with the others first. Because compared to the others, Feng Qingshan was a tough nut to crack. If they didn't take advantage of him, they might even break their teeth. Hee. Now we can relax for a while. In the sky, a huge warship was parked in front of the market's gate. However, no one noticed it. After Feng Qingshan summoned the timeless ark, he didn't leave. Instead, he hid in midair and watched the show. Disaster and the others wanted to kill many birds with one stone, but they also needed to see if Feng Qingshan was willing or not. This way, they would completely offend those who obtained the fortuitous opportunities. During this period of time, the entire heaven realm would be in chaos. Those who obtained the fortuitous opportunities would go into hiding. Since the Fortune Heavenly Court, the Origin Dynasty, and the Truth Dynasty had already offended them, they would definitely go all out. Therefore, next, the 5 Elements sect could really sit back and relax. Feng Qingshan could also boldly go to the journey to the West World to look for the fortuitous opportunities. The great tribulation of destruction of heaven and earth was right in front of them. The immortal king and the masters of the void-breaking realm were about to appear. After digesting the fortuitous opportunities in the market, there would probably be many lords of heaven and immortal kings. The most important thing was that the gate of eternal life was about to appear. Fang Qingshan was determined to get this thing, and to ensure that it was foolproof, his cultivation needed to be further improved. Even the timeless arc needed to be promoted. And all this depended on how Fang Qingshan gained in the journey to the West world. This time, Fang Qingshan decided to go to the journey to the West alone, and Mosquito Daoran would leave him in the immortal world. On the one hand, although the Five Elements sect could sit back and relax, it was better to be safe than sorry. Leaving Mosquito Daoran could deal with unexpected events. The other was the journey to the West, where Buddhism flourished and Mosquito Daoran swallowed a third-grade golden lotus in Junti. If he went there, it would not be long before Junti came to him. At that time, not to mention the fortuitous opportunities, he would know that Mosquito Daoran was his own avatar, and even he would not be able to protect himself. Chapter 709. Li in Heaven to Shita Palace. In front of the 8 trigrams alchemy cauldron sat an old man with white hair and a youthful face. He held a floating sword and looked like an immortal. Beside him stood 2 boys, one golden and one silver. They looked like a golden boy and jade girl. They held a fan in their hands and fanned the 8 trigrams cauldron from time to time. The fragrance of the pill was intoxicating. The 3 of them were Taishang Lao Jun, the Golden Horn, and the Silver Horn boys. At a certain moment, the Lao Jun, who seemed to be in a trance, suddenly opened his eyes. Although there was not much expression on his face, he took off a Vajra ring on his wrist and smashed it into the void. Then, he said to the 2 boys beside him, "Your second senior brother is back. Go and welcome him." The Golden Horn and the Silver Horn were stunned at first, but then they remembered that apart from the great Taoist Master Xiandu, there was indeed a second senior brother in Rin's school. However, they had seen this second senior brother once when he became a disciple. After the great God-confirmant tribulation, there was no more news of him. The 2 hurried outside the Tashita Palace. Not long after, they saw a rainbow bridge crossing the east and west. A young man came with his hands behind his back, full of the true meaning of freedom of Taoism. The person who came was naturally Fang Qingshan. The Immortal Life sect was in chaos, and nothing would happen to the Five Elements sect for a while. Fang Qingshan left the Mosquito Taoist behind and used the Universal Heaven chessboard to travel over. This transmigration was especially important to him, because when he returned, it would basically be the great calamity of the world. At that time, the gate of eternal life would appear. In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, he had to take down the gate of eternal life easily and open the path for Mosquito Daoran to break through to the primordial chaos realm. First, he needed to raise his cultivation level to the zenith heaven realm. Secondly, it was time for the timeless arc to advance to the unparalleled realm. Fang Qingshan's cultivation level had just broken through to the golden immortal realm not long ago. If he wanted to break through to the zenith heaven realm, he was still short of the primordial unity realm. Although he had robbed the fortune heavenly court and the origin dynasty and obtained a lot of resources, it would not be a problem for Mosquito Daoran to advance to the primordial unity realm at the same time as him. But he was different from Mosquito Daoran. As long as he had the resources, Mosquito Daoran could break through any time and anywhere without any side effects. But Fang Qingshan couldn't. He needed to consider his cultivation level, state of mind, and many other aspects. He had just broken through to the golden immortal realm, from the earth immortal realm to the golden immortal realm in one go. It would not be easy to break through to the grand Luo realm in a short period of time without damaging his foundation. However, there was one method that was easy to accomplish. It was similar to what happened back in Eternal World. After the battlefield of primordial demons was over, Hongjun Tiandao would descend upon him with the power of fortune. By doing so, he would be able to increase his strength. Add the power of fortune into the equation, he would not face any side effects. However, breaking through from golden immortal to grand heavenly immortal required a considerable amount of creation energy. Fortunately, there was a fortuitous encounter in the journey to the west that could be done: the rise of Buddhism and the spread of Buddhist teachings to the east. As long as one joined the journey to the West team and completed the 108,000 li, it should not be a problem for one to break through to the Grand Luo realm. Didn't you see Monkey Sun and Tripitaka becoming Buddhists? That was the realm of sage to be. Even his mount, Little White Dragon, had become the 8th-division Heavenly Dragon, and Bodhisattva Guangli had the cultivation of a zenith heaven. Even so, getting a spot was not an easy task. The members of a Journey to the West team were all people with great backgrounds. Didn't you see that the mount and guards that Li Shiming had chosen for Tripitaka were wiped out before they could even leave Tang Dynasty? Tripitaka was a Buddhist. Monkey Sun represented the demons and Lady Niuhua. Zhu Beiji was Fang Qingshan's disciple nephew and a disciple of the Ren school. He represented Lord Shalayan. Monk Sha was the curtain-lifting general. He represented the heavenly court, the Jade Emperor, and the Queen Mother. Therefore, it would not be easy for Fang Qingshan to sneak in even with his background. There was no way the Ren school could occupy 2 spots, and he could not snatch the position of his disciple nephew. Fortunately, even if he did not join the Journey to the West team, there was still another way to create the 81 tribulations. Why were there so many mounts of deities and Buddhas during the Journey to the West? It was all for the sake of merit and fortune. What Fang Qingshan needed to do now was to do the same. Of course, it was not to snatch food from a tiger's mouth, but to find another way. After all, apart from mounts with powerful backgrounds, there were also many wild demons. These were all Fang Qingshan's targets. Instead of letting them die in the hands of Monkey Sun, he might as well make use of them and let them live. This was a win-win situation. However, before that, Fang Qingshan still needed to pay his respect to the doc. Firstly, it was to show respect to his master, and secondly, it was to mention this matter. As for why Fang Qingshan came to the Tishida Palace instead of the Great Scarlet Sky, it was because after the Great War of Investiture of the Gods, the Saints of the Heavens were grounded by Daozu. They were not allowed to appear unless there was a cataclysm. They were all chased into the chaos. Although it was only the inner chaos, Fang Qingshan could not go there with his level of cultivation, unless he used the timeless Arkansas. However, there was no need for that. Besides, it would cause too much of a commotion, and the gains would not make up for the losses. Besides, although old Lord Taishang was not Laozi's true body, he could represent Laozi. It was the same. After all, he was Laozi's good corpse. This could be considered as a policy from above and a countermeasure from below. Juni had left behind Patriarch Subhoodie, while Laozi had left behind old Lord Taishang. Even Niuhua had old mother of Black Full Mountain. Disciple Fang Qingshan greets Master. May Master live a long and sacred life. Fang Qingshan followed Goldhorn and the Silverhorn Boy to the 8 trigrams alchemy cauldron and bowed respectfully at Old Lord. Oh, not bad. You have already broken through to the golden immortal realm. Furthermore, your foundation is solid. Old Lord was Laozi's good corpse, so he was more human-like. He treated Fang Qingshan in a rather amiable manner. After sizing up Fang Qingshan, he noticed something amiss and revealed a smile. Master, you flatter me. Compared to eldest senior brother, I'm far inferior. Fang Qingshan said humbly, your eldest senior brother has been with me since the ancient desolation era. You can't compare him like that. Old Lord shook his head and did not say anything else. He changed the topic. Kid, you've been away from this great realm for such a long time. Is there anything important on your return this time? Master, please understand. I need to break through to the Zenith Heaven realm in a short period of time, but I don't want to damage my foundation. Therefore, I can only come back to try my luck. Fang Qingshan smiled. I see. Old Lord nodded in understanding. What do you want me to do? I don't dare to trouble Master. Fang Qingshan shook his head. I plan to. Fang Qingshan told Old Lord his plan in full detail. Yes, under Hongjun Tiandao, the general trend will not change, but the minor trends can be reversed. When the Grand Supreme Elder heard this, he did not say yes, nor did he say no. He only said something that seemed to be unrelated. Thank you, Master. Fang Qingshan knew that although Old Lord did not say it explicitly, he had already confirmed his thoughts. He was letting him do whatever he wanted. As long as he did not go overboard or do anything heaven-defying, there was no need to take anything else to heart. Chapter 710. It's already the Jingguan era. It seems that the journey to the west will begin soon. After leaving the Tishita Palace, Fang Qingshan pinched his fingers and calculated the year and month. There's not much time left. I have to hurry up and plan. The members of the Journey to the West team had already been fixed. Even if Fang Qingshan was the disciple of the Grand Supreme Elder, he could not change the established facts, unless he snatched Zhu Beiji's position. However, Zhu Beiji was his disciple nephew after all. Furthermore, it was all thanks to the great Taoist Master Xian Du that he was able to successfully become his disciple back then. Hence, Fang Qingshan could not do such a shameless thing. Apart from Tang Sung and his disciples who were riding on the little white dragon, there were also the guards that Li Shiming had prepared for Tang Sanzang. However, with Sun Wukong and the rest, the guard were obviously useless. If he did not perform well, even if he followed them all the way to the west, it would only be a little hard work. He would not have enough merit and luck. If he performed too well, he would not be able to cover up Sun Wukong's glory. In the journey to the west, anyone could be missing except Tang Sung and Sun Wukong. Tang Sung represented Buddhism. Sun Wukong represented Nuwa. More importantly, he had the merit of mending the heavens and the luck of the demons. Therefore, instead of worrying about advancing and retreating, he might as well learn from the mighty figures of Buddhism and send his disciples to make things difficult for Tang Sung, and then help him. The effect would be the same. Under Hongjun Tiandao, the general trend would not change, and the small trend could be reversed. He did not care about the process. As long as the outcome did not change, there would not be a problem. Therefore, as long as one did not change the prosperity of Buddhism, the journey to the east and the 81 tribulations would not be considered heaven-defying. As long as one could successfully complete the tribulation, the journey to the west and the 81 tribulations would not be considered heaven-defying. As long as one could successfully complete the tribulation, there would be merit and luck after the journey to the west. Therefore, what Fang Qingshan had to do now was to take those guerrillas under his command. As for the so-called guerrilla forces, they were the kind of wild monsters that had no backing. If Fang Qingshan were to attack demons with backgrounds, he would be snatching food from a tiger's mouth. It would be fine if he took on karma with one or two of them, but if he took on more, the gains would not make up for the losses. Fortunately, although there were many monsters with powerful backgrounds, such as Golden Horn and Silver Horn from the Flat Top Mountain, and White Elephant from the Lion Camel Kingdom, there were also many monsters without powerful backgrounds, such as Black Bear from the Black Wind Mountain, Corpse Demon from the White Bone Spirit, and Six Ears Macaque from the real and fake Sun Wukong. Although the first of the 81 hardships of the journey to the west began when Tang Sung was banished to Spirited Mountain, the other hardships, such as the birth of the child, the throwing of the river at the full moon, and the search for relatives and grievances obviously had nothing to do with Fang Qingshan. Even if he wanted to intervene, it was too late. Therefore, the first thing Fang Qingshan needed to do was to go to the Twin Forks Ridge. There were 3 wild monsters here. One was the tiger monster General Een, the second was the wild bull monster Special Virgin, and the third was the bear monster Bear Mountain Lord. Once he subdued them and made them follow their original path, he would be able to obtain the first portion of merit. However, the only troublesome person in the process was Tai Bai Jinxing. If he did not appear, then Tai Bai Jinxing would be saved. With him, there would naturally be no need for Tai Bai Jinxing. This was undoubtedly a fortuitous encounter for Tai Bai Jinxing. Fortunately, although Tai Bai Jinxing was not a simple person, he was a good person on the surface. As long as his background was solid, even if his fortuitous encounter was ruined, as long as it was not too much, he could still bear it. Fang Qingshan was a disciple of the Laojun. Even if his fortuitous encounter was taken away, it would not be too much of a hindrance. In an inconspicuous cave on the Twin Forks Ridge, Tai Bai Jinxing, who was meditating, suddenly opened his eyes. Looking at the graceful figure in the distance, he could not help but frown. He thought to himself, "The person who wants to obtain the Buddhist scriptures will pass by here soon." Why would someone come here at this time? Moreover, the person's cultivation is not low. The graceful figure under his feet seems to be the rainbow transformation technique of the Vairocana lineage. It is also the golden light of the Enlightenment sect. Who exactly is it? He was ordered by the Jade Emperor to help Tang Xuanzong escape the first calamity after leaving Tang. It should have been easy, but now there was an unforeseen event. Tai Bai Jinxing was worried and immediately walked out of the cave. He turned into a white light and flew straight towards the golden light. Fang Qingshan left the Tashita Palace and went straight to the Twin Forks Ridge. From afar, he saw a frosty white sword chi rising into the sky and rushing towards him. Fang Qingshan's heart suddenly trembled, and he secretly became alert. Although this was the journey to the west, and his cultivation had made great progress compared to when he was a god, he still needed to be careful if he wanted to dominate the world. After all, this was not the immortal world. There were many capable people and strange people everywhere. There could be an old monster that could not be provoked in any barren mountain or river. Sun Wukong was so powerful when he caused havoc in the Heavenly Palace, but during the journey to the west, he was controlled everywhere. Of course, it was inevitable that Sun Wukong would go easy on him or his strength would decline, but one could see the whole picture. The power of these monsters in the mountains could also be seen. Not to mention these for the time being, but before the white light arrived, Fang Qingshan felt as if a sword light was cold, and the whole world seemed to be pierced. It was like the Shushan sword escape, but it was many times faster than it. Faintly, Fang Qingshan had a guess about the identity of the person who came. In this Twin Forks Ridge, looking at this escape light, it must be Tai Bai Jinxing. This old man is really not easy to deal with. Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan thought to himself. There was Qiming in the east and Chang'eng in the west. Tai Bai Jinxing was the martial god who was in charge of killing. Even so, how could he still have the face of a good person in the past? The reason for this was probably because his master was not very good, and he was also hiding his strength. This place is about to become a place of trouble. Taoists should leave quickly. Tai Bai Jinxing landed and kindly persuaded Fang Qingshan. You must be Tai Bai Jinxing, right? Fang Qingshan said calmly when he heard that. I know that the people who came here to obtain the scriptures are about to arrive, but I'm here for them. The Taoist knows about me. He also knows about the people who came to obtain the scriptures, and he's here for them. Tai Bai Jinxing frowned. Yes. Fang Qingshan nodded. I'm a disciple of Ren School. I've been ordered to subdue the demons. As he spoke, Fang Qingshan shook his shoulders. 3 clones that were identical to his main body walked out and disappeared in a flash. 3 pure ones with 1 breath. Jinxing exclaimed when he saw that. Forget it. So the Taoist is a disciple of the Grand Supreme Elder. Since he's here on orders, there's no need for me. I can return to heaven to serve His Majesty. When Tai Bai Jinxing saw Fang Qingshan Yu Sanqing, he made a prompt decision and gave up on the opportunity. Thank you, Jinxing. Fang Qingshan bowed and thanked him. Chapter 711. It didn't matter if Tai Bai Jinxing was doing it for his sake or if he really wanted to go back and serve the Jade Emperor. Since Tai Bai Jinxing had given him face, Fang Qingshan naturally had to thank him and accept his kindness. One had to know that this was not a small opportunity. Although Tai Bai Jinxing had only rescued Tang Sanzang from the tiger's den, the demons were not very powerful, and they did not fight. However, this was the first tribulation after Tang Sanzang left the Tang dynasty. As long as it was tainted with Xiantian, the words first would always be somewhat different. For example, the first coffin, connate numinous treasures, connate spirit roots, and so on. As for why Tai Bai Jinxing gave up so easily, first of all, it was naturally because of Fang Qingshan's background. It was true that he could enjoy the shade from a big tree. If he wasn't a direct disciple of Laozi, Tai Bai Jinxing wouldn't give up such an opportunity so easily even if he was a good person. Moreover, this opportunity was actually not very important to him. He was Tai Bai Jinxing, the Zodiac star that shone on the universe. Although it was not as good as the sun and the moon, it also occupied an extraordinary position. He was born with luck and merit. In addition, he held an important position in the heavenly courts and also had great luck. Therefore, he did not lack merit and luck. The reason why he descended to the mortal world was just to be a witness. After all, from the Double Fork Ridge, the journey to the west had officially started. It was a worthwhile deal to exchange something that he did not lack for a favor from the direct disciple of Rin School. One had to know that Rin School was different from other sections. Those who could be considered direct disciples were not worth more than one palm. The rarer something was, the more precious it was. In particular, there was a 3 corpses incarnation of Laozi in the heavenly courts. Although he did not care much and was like a good person, no one dared to underestimate his existence. Therefore, it was reasonable for Tai Bai to make such a choice. No matter what, Fang Qingshan remembered it in his heart. If there was a chance in the future, he would naturally repay him. After bidding farewell to Tai Bai jinxing, Fang Qingshan went straight to General Yin's cave abode. As for why Fang Qingshan found it so accurately, it was naturally because the demonic aura there was the densest. At this moment, there was a banquet in General Yin's cave abode. General Yin was drinking with the special secretary and Xiong Shanjun. Rumble. Suddenly, there was a loud noise like a bolt from the blue. Following that, the sky collapsed and the earth caved in. The entire cave shook, sand and stones flew everywhere, and dust flew everywhere. That thief actually dared to show off his might in Grandpa Yin's territory. General Yin, who was covered in dirt, jumped out of the cave residence and shouted, "General, why are you wasting your breath on him? This thief dared to destroy the general's cave and our banquet. It's a good time to kill him and use him to entertain our guests." The special secretary and Xiong Shanjun followed him and came out in embarrassment. Looking at Fang Qingshan, who was standing in front of the cave residence with his hands clasped behind his back, their eyes were full of killing intent. General Yin, special secretary Xiong Shan. When he saw the 3 of them, Fang Qingshan glanced at them indifferently. In an instant, the 3 of them felt a chill run through their hearts. Their bodies quivered and their clamoring stopped abruptly. "I'm a direct disciple of Rin School. Are you willing to submit to me?" Fang Qingshan did not waste time talking to them. First, he took them down a notch. Then, he revealed his identity and went straight to the point. "What? The successor of Rin School?" The 3 of them, who were originally trembling with fear, immediately exclaimed when they heard this. Then, like a chicken pecking rice, he nodded repeatedly. "Yes, yes, I'm willing." It was as if he was afraid that he would miss this great opportunity if he spoke too slowly. Although it was not the time to become a god, and the Buddhist sects were flourishing, the prestige of the Rin School was still resounding. Not to mention wild demons like them. Even those with backers could not help but feel respectful when they heard the words Rin School. Being able to enter such a Taoist sacred land was undoubtedly a gift from the heavens for demons who had no heritage or backing. Who wouldn't agree? After all, ever since the ancient great sorcerer and demon war, the days of the demon race have been getting harder and harder. Before the apotheosis, there was the Tongtian sect leader, discrimination in education. Now, apart from a barren land of Baiju Lu Prefecture, only the 100,000 mountains of Shihanyo Prefecture still had a little bit of habitat for the demon race. Moreover, with the start of the journey to the west, the demons also felt the impending calamity. Therefore, although many demons had captured Tang Sung, they did not dare to kill him. Otherwise, they would have swallowed him the moment they caught him. There wouldn't have been so many things. It was all for that chance of survival. Unfortunately, apart from those with backers, it was useless even if they were demons. Those who deserved to die still had to die. If they could become disciples of the Rin School now, regardless of their future cultivation, they would at least not have to worry about their lives. How could the special agents and the others not be willing? "Greetings, Master." Without another word, the 3 of them knelt and bowed to Fang Qingshan. As for why he believed Fang Qingshan's words the moment he heard it, firstly, with Fang Qingshan's cultivation level, he would not lie to them. There is no need for him to do so. Secondly, in the entire world, there were probably not many people who dared to pretend to be the direct disciple of the Ren school. That karma was not something that ordinary people could accept. In order to deceive a few little demons like them, he had to accept karma with the Ren school. There was probably not such a foolish person. Forget it, get up. Fang Qingshan waved his hand and helped the three of them up. Then he said, "Since you've become my disciple, you have to follow my rules. Don't kill the innocent. Don't eat human flesh." Yes. Fang Qingshan set a series of rules, but the three special agents did not hesitate at all and agreed resolutely. "All right, in that case, you guys can cultivate here. I will look for you when the time comes." Fang Qingshan gave them some instructions and stretched out his hand. A message was reflected in the minds of the three of them. Then he turned around and left without staying any longer. "Thank you, Master." Xiong Shanjun and the other two cried tears of joy and knelt and bowed to Fang Qingshan. It turned out that what Fang Qingshan had passed to them was a demon inheritance that could lead them to the golden immortal realm. As wild demons, they had no background, no inheritance, and no Dharma treasures. Overnight, they had a backer and obtained an inheritance. How could they not be touched? In this regard, Fang Qingshan did not take it to heart. After all, if he wanted a horse to run, how could he not feed it? He wanted to use them to earn merit and luck. Naturally, he would not be stingy with some cultivation technique inheritance. After planting the first chess piece in the double fork ridge, Fang Qingshan did not rush to the next place. Instead, he turned around and walked toward the Five Elements Mountain. Since he had already arrived at this place, how could he not go to see the Monkey King who once robbed the Dragon Palace, broke into the underworld, and made trouble in the Heaven Palace? The Five Elements Mountain was not far from the Double Fork Ridge. With Fang Qingshan's speed, he arrived nearby in a short while. From a distance, he saw the Buddha light shining on the top of the mountain and a golden invitation card suppressing all directions. When Fang Qingshan was about to continue approaching, he suddenly felt an evil wind coming from the left. Whoosh! Fang Qingshan moved sideways to avoid it, only to see a steel fork plunged into the ground. Chapter 712. Fang Qingshan squinted his eyes, and a cold glint flashed across his eyes. If it weren't for his quick reaction, he would have been killed by the steel fork if he were an ordinary person. He should be killed for treating human life like grass for no reason. Fang Qingshan slowly turned his head and saw a burly man with the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear striding over. His face was filled with a fiendish expression as he stared at Fang Qingshan with his large eyes and shouted, "Who are you? Don't you know this is a forbidden place? How dare you barge in? Do you want to die? Are you Lu Buqin, the guardian of the mountain?" Fang Qingshan had some guesses about the person's identity. Forbidden place? Fang Qingshan really didn't know about that. However, he could understand after thinking about it. In the mortal world, the place where serious criminals were imprisoned was a forbidden place, not to mention the place where Sun Wukong was imprisoned. Sun Wukong had been suppressed under the Five Elements Mountain for 500 years, but basically no one had come to visit him. That didn't make sense. Moreover, before Fang Qingshan got close, he could already feel the vast Dharma in the golden invitation. It was like a mountain as mighty as a prison. The six-syllable mantra talisman that Fang Han had once obtained to suppress the Scarlet Abyss Demon Lord was like a firefly compared to the bright moon. Putting everything else aside, the power of the golden invitation alone was enough to make people flinch. Therefore, it made sense that this place was a forbidden place. However, the so-called forbidden place was only for ordinary people. If they couldn't afford to offend the heavenly courts and the Buddhists, or if they had to give them some face, this place would naturally be a forbidden place. However, if they weren't afraid of the heavenly courts and the Buddhists, the so-called forbidden place would be useless. As a direct disciple of Ren school, Fang Qingshan was naturally not afraid of the heavenly courts and the Buddhists. Not to mention that he was just here to take a look, so what if it was something more serious? Even if it was for his sake, who would dare to make things difficult for him? That was also the reason why Sun Wukong could easily snatch the Dragon Palace, barge into the netherworld, and cause trouble in the sky. People didn't bother with him for the sake of the two saints, Juanti and Nuwa. Otherwise, there was no need to even mention the heavenly court and the underworld. One was the center of the three realms, with the three corpses of the saints guarding it. The other was the private plot of the Wu people, with Lady Tranquil Heart, who was no weaker than the saints in the underworld. The Dragon Palace alone was not a simple place. The dragon race was the leader of the three ancient races. Even though they had declined, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Just the fact that they could still occupy the four seas was proof enough. In a place like this, even a primordial immortal, grand heavenly immortal, or even a demi-saint would not be able to leave unscathed, let alone a golden immortal like Monkey King. If Lu Buqin spoke to Fong Qingshan nicely, and Fong Qingshan was not an unreasonable person, he would also give face to the Buddhists and heavenly court. But now, if he didn't teach her a lesson, she would think that he was a pushover. At that time, he would not only lose his face, but also his father's. Let's not talk about whether this is a forbidden area or not. Even if it is, so what? There are many places in this world that I can't go. Fong Qingshan snorted coldly. You threw a steel fork at me, so I'll return it to you. Fong Qingshan stomped on the ground with his foot, and with a whoosh, the steel fork flew out. Fong Qingshan grabbed it, and without any visible movements, he threw it directly at the burly man. Even though Fong Qingshan's throw did not seem to be anything special, one had to know that he cultivated both dharma and physique, and the cultivation technique he cultivated was not inferior to the 9 transformations essence art. With the support of great strength, it was not inferior to divine abilities at all. It was as fast as lightning, and as explosive as thunder. The burly man was clearly shocked by Fong Qingshan's casual attack. There was no time to think, and an evil wind blew. He did not know if he used a heaven and earth dharma idol or something else, but his entire body was like an inflated balloon, instantly expanding by several feet. Then he punched out, and, at the critical moment, it collided with the steel fork. Clang! The fist and fork collided, and sparks flew everywhere. The sound of the golden bell was endless, and it went straight into one's primordial spirit, making one's mind tremble and body sway. Although the burly man blocked the steel fork, he did not have it easy. He retreated more than 10 steps before he managed to stand firm. His arm was twisted like a fried dough twist, and even his bones were cracked. Who are you? How dare you go against the heavenly court? The burly man gasped, and his eyes were full of fear as he looked at Fong Qingshan. However, he still shouted arrogantly, Hee, giant spirit, you really don't learn from your mistakes. Since he dared to hurt you, he is naturally not afraid of the heavenly court. Before Fong Qingshan could say anything, he heard a burst of laughter from the foot of the Five Elements mountain. For a moment, the mountains and valleys echoed. Only then did Fong Qingshan realize that the person in front of him was the giant spirit of the heavenly court, who was sent down by the Jade Emperor to watch over the monkey son. The monkey son was also pitiful. In the past, he was so high-spirited and full of guests. Now, he did not even let go of a chance to make fun of him. From this, one could tell what kind of life he had been living all these years. I am Fong Qingshan, the direct disciple of Ren School. Tai Bai Jinxing did not stop me just now and went straight back. Do you still want to stay here? Fong Qingshan originally only wanted to come over and see the monkey son before leaving. However, the giant spirit had attacked him indiscriminately. How could Fong Qingshan not take revenge? What? The direct disciple of Ren School? Jinxing went back. After hearing Fong Qingshan's words, the giant spirit was instantly dumbfounded. He had been sent to the lower realm to watch over the monkey's son back then because he had failed in the battle. He had been holding back his anger, so he was angry at Fong Qingshan. However, he did not expect to kick an iron plate. Even the Jade Emperor had to show some respect to the direct disciple of Ren School. He actually took the initiative to provoke him. Forget about his identity. Judging from the previous exchange, he could not defeat him. For a moment, the giant spirit's face could not help but turn purple. Why? Do you need me to send you off? Fang Qingshan narrowed his eyes, and a powerful aura crushed towards the giant spirit. Crack! The giant spirit immediately seemed to be carrying the sky on his back. His body, which was originally tens of feet tall, was immediately compressed by half. Even his spine became hunched. Sigh. At that moment, a sigh sounded in the void. Then, an old man with white hair and white eyebrows appeared in front of the giant spirit, immediately isolating Fang Qingshan's aura. Taoist, I wonder if you can let him go on account of me. When he saw who it was, Fang Qingshan's pupils constricted. That was because he did not notice that someone was hiding in the dark. What would happen if someone were to sneak an attack? This Tai-Bai jinxing is indeed not simple. His cultivation level is at least above the zenith heaven. Fang Qingshan muttered to himself. That's right, the person who came was Tai-Bai jinxing. He was already prepared to return to the heavenly heavens. But halfway through, he suddenly remembered that there were some things he needed to instruct the mighty miracle god on. So he turned back and happened to save the mighty miracle god. Otherwise, although his life wouldn't be in danger today, some suffering would be unavoidable. Chapter 7:13. Since jinxing has spoken, I naturally have no reason to refuse. Fang Qingshan had just given him face by giving up a fortuitous opportunity. Although this fortuitous opportunity wasn't indispensable to him, Fang Qingshan couldn't turn his back on him. Moreover, he only wanted to teach the mighty miracle god a lesson, not to the extent of killing him. After all, the mighty miracle god was a general of the heavenly court. Hence, he nodded and said, I'll let you off today for jinxing's sake. You may leave. This matter has nothing to do with you. Thank you, Taoist. Tai-Bai jinxing thanked him smilingly, then pulled the reluctant mighty miracle god and flew towards the heavenly court. The mighty miracle god was also unlucky. He couldn't vent his anger at any time and at any person. Yet, he had to face Fang Qingshan at this time. He had failed at the last step. He, Tai-Bai jinxing, and Monk Sha were the Jade Emperor's confidants. Although they wouldn't be punished when they returned to the heavenly court, they would have let down the Jade Emperor's efforts. The Jade Emperor punished the mighty miracle god partly because of the disadvantageous battle, but the real reason was to give him a fortuitous opportunity. As long as he kept Monkey Sun here until his sentence was completed, he would also gain a portion of karma. Although this karma was only icing on the cake for Tai-Bai jinxing and the others who were above the Zenith Heaven realm, it wasn't of much use. But for someone like the mighty miracle god who hadn't even reached the golden immortal realm, it was naturally of great benefit. He would definitely make use of this opportunity to break through to the golden immortal realm. Old man, since you're here, why don't you see your old friend before leaving? At this time, Monkey Sun, who was at the foot of the Five Elements Mountain, spoke again. Great sage, when you return from the tribulation, Tai-Bai will hold a feast for you. Tai-Bai jinxing had stayed in the Twin Forks Ridge for so long without visiting Monkey Sunday. He naturally wouldn't make an exception now. After Tai-Bai jinxing left, Fang Qingshan also prepared to leave. However, before that, he still needed to leave behind a doppelganger to transform into the Mountain Guardian. This doppelganger would wait for Tripitaka to arrive and guide him in rescuing Sun Wukong. He hadn't thought of snatching this fortuitous opportunity, but since he had come this far, there was no reason for him to let it go. Although a fortuitous encounter wasn't much, gathering them all made him mickle. Hey, brother up there, why did you leave just like that? Why don't you come down and chat with old Sun? Sun Wukong had been suppressing himself for the past 500 years. There was nothing else, but there were two things that were unbearable to him. The first was freedom. This freedom was different from ordinary freedom. Normally, when one's freedom was restricted, one could at least move around in a small area. However, when he was suppressed under the Five Elements Mountain, he couldn't move anything except his head. For a lively and active monkey, this was more painful than any torture. Of course, the main reason was that ordinary torture was nothing more than an itch to him. The other was loneliness. Yes, apart from freedom, there was also loneliness. Not only was the monkey lively and active, but it also loved lively places. Thinking back to the time when he was at the Flower Fruit Mountain, the mountains and plains were filled with monkeys, the 3 mountains and 5 peaks, the friends of immortals and God from the north and south of the Yangtze River. They roamed the North Sea in the morning, ate the morning dew, ate the rosy clouds, and watched the waves rise and fall in their free time. It was like a dream. But now, in the past 500 years, apart from a boy who came to the mountain in the past 100 years who would talk to him and pick some wild fruits for him, only the mighty miracle God would scold him from time to time. Now, the boy hadn't seen him for many years, and the mighty miracle God was chased back to the heavenly court by Fong Qing Shan. He had to greet Fong Qing Shan as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would be suffocated to death. "Greetings, great sage." Hearing that, Fong Qing Shan didn't decline. He had already planned to visit Sun Wukong. Follow your heart, follow your heart. Tao is natural. Fong Qing Shan sat down in front of Sun Wukong. He waved his hand and took out all kinds of spiritual wine and spiritual fruits from the innate small world. Seeing these things, Sun Wukong's eyes lit up. He didn't even bother to speak. He opened his mouth and sucked, instantly swallowing all the spiritual fruits and spiritual wine. This situation was similar to Zhu Beiji swallowing ginseng fruits in one gulp. After finishing, he even licked his lips as if he hadn't had enough. Raising his head and looking at Fong Qing Shan's faint smile, Sun Wukong's face instantly turned red. "I've embarrassed myself in front of you, brother. That's right. Since you like it, I won't be stingy with the food." Fong Qing Shan shook his head and waved his hand again, taking out another pile of spiritual fruits and spiritual wine. This time, Sun Wukong didn't do the same. Instead, he drank slowly with Fong Qing Shan and chatted with him. "Brother, although your spiritual fruits and spiritual wine are not bad, it's much worse than what I ate at the Heavenly Court's Immortal Peach Feast back then. Brother, your cultivation level is not bad. How many years have you been cultivating? I heard you say that you're the direct disciple of Rin School. What's the background of this Rin School? That old man and blockhead actually have to give you face. After I get out of trouble, I'll definitely invite you to Huawa Mountain and treat you well." Sun Wukong seemed to want to say everything that he had been talking about for 500 years in one go. He spoke incoherently and almost mentioned the crescent moon and 3 Stars Cave. In the end, Sun Wukong actually took out 2 items as a gift, making Fong Qing Shan feel that his trip was not in vain. The 2 items were a pill and a peach. Fong Qing Shan was no stranger to pills. That was because the pill was similar to the golden pill that the great Taoist Master Xian Du had given him back then. However, it was more exquisite, and the origin power in it was even more surging. Golden Core 8 Revolutions. That was the pill that the Grand Supreme Elder had specially refined for Sun Wukong. Why was it the 8th Revolutions and not the 9th Revolutions? Firstly, even if Sun Wukong was talented, his body would explode, and he would die if he swallowed the golden core like he did back then. In addition, the materials to refine the 9 Revolutions golden pill were scarce. Even the saints did not have any extra food. Otherwise, when the heavenly lord of primordial beginning asked him for the golden pill to repair Guang Chengzi and the others' cultivation levels, he would not have run out of food. As for the peach, it was actually an immortal peach. It was not a 3,000-year-old or 6,000-year-old immortal peach, but a 9,000-year-old one. Although it could not be compared to the ginseng fruit, it was still a top-notch spirit fruit. In particular, the immortal peach core of the immortal peach could be used to plant another immortal peach. It was probably not inferior to the Bodhi tree in Fong Qing Shan's hands. Moreover, it was a top-notch water element spirit root. It had an additional effect on Fong Qing Shan's comprehension of the great Tao of water. Those 2 items were left behind by Sun Wukong when he wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace back then. No matter how hard it had been all these years, he had only taken them out to look at them. He had not eaten them. Today, he was also grateful to Fong Qing Shan for taking out so many good things and chatting with him. Due to that, Fong Qing Shan naturally returned the favor. He directly told him that his tribulation was about to be completed and he would be able to escape soon. When that time came, he would be free. That was not considered revealing the heavenly secrets. Anyway, even if he did not say it, Guanyin would say it soon. Chapter 714. He drank, ate, and chatted with them. The three escorts had indeed gained a lot. They actually obtained some golden pill 8 transformations and a 9,000-year-old peach of immortality. It was truly a pleasant surprise. Although the golden pill 8 transformations was called an elixir, it was also an art of alchemy. For alchemists, it was no less than an inheritance placed in front of them. It was as if the laws of alchemy were displayed in front of them for them to observe. Not long ago, Fang Qingshan had received the inheritance of the eternal Pill Realm Lord. In terms of alchemy, he was the king of alchemy and a grandmaster of theory. Observing this golden core could help him solidify his foundation. If he refined it himself, it wouldn't be long before he could combine theory with practice and become a true expert. As the saying went, all things converged into one. Fang Qingshan was currently walking on this path. He specialized in the 5 elements and turned the myriad of Daos in the world into the 5 elements. As long as he improved his alchemy, he could also improve the laws of the 5 elements. Moreover, although the Golden Pill 8 transformations was not as good as the Golden Pill 9 transformations, it could provide abundant origin energy when breaking through a major realm. It would not cause one's efforts to go to waste due to a lack of spiritual energy. After all, the more profound one's cultivation was, the more spiritual energy needed to break through would be. The reason why there were endless tribulations in the world was inseparable from spiritual energy. At the beginning of the world, there was no lack of chaotic spiritual energy, let alone innate spiritual energy. However, as time passed and the world evolved, more and more living beings appeared. As more and more spiritual energy was consumed, the world's carrying capacity was limited. Once the speed of spiritual energy conversion was not the same as the living being's consumption rate, the cataclysm would occur. Why was it that after becoming a god, the sages were confined to their own small worlds by Daozu and even chased into the chaos? Other than the fact that the sages were too powerful and could destroy the world with a single move. The main problem was still the spiritual energy. As the saying goes, one is never too old to learn. Even when one reached the sage realm, they still had to cultivate and meditate daily would consume spiritual energy. Even if they meditated, the spiritual energy they consumed was more than 10 times that of a grand luo breaking through to the quasi-sage realm. If they were allowed to absorb spiritual energy, it wouldn't take long before the cataclysm broke through. Therefore, spiritual energy was the key. The reason why the age of chaos came into being was because of the exhaustion of spiritual energy. Furthermore, even if there was an abundance of spiritual qi, if one consumed too much of the spiritual qi in the world, they would form a huge karma with the world. If you walk the path of a saint, merging with the world and protecting it, that's fine. If you want to walk the path of transcendence, then sorry, when the time comes, heaven and earth will settle the score with you. This was also the reason why it was harder to become a perfected golden immortal of the origin world than to become a sage. The heaven and earth did not allow you to leave after eating your fill, unless you could eat without paying. Otherwise, you could only accept it obediently or seek your own death. After death, your cultivation would disperse and be used to replenish the heaven and earth. Therefore, cultivators usually meditated on a daily basis to absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, as well as the essence of the sun and moon. When it came to breaking through to the next realm and breaking through bottlenecks, they would mostly rely on things like pills and spirit stones. Firstly, simply absorbing spiritual qi would not only cause a huge commotion, but it might also not be enough. Secondly, there was also the reason to reduce karma. If they absorbed too much, it might even cause the entire space to become barren. As for the peach of immortality, it was even better. It could also replenish the spiritual qi of heaven and earth and help people comprehend the profound meaning of the law of water. More importantly, the peach of immortality could be bred again and grow into a peach tree of immortality. A peach tree of immortality cultivated with a 9,000-year-old peach of immortality would be more than enough to rival a 3,000-year-old peach of immortality, even if it could not rival a 6,000-year-old peach of immortality. For these two treasures, Fang Qingshan left a doppelganger to chat with Sun Wukong. He also left a lot of spiritual fruits and spiritual wine to entertain him. Firstly, it was for the two treasures, which were no less valuable than two primordial spiritual treasures, especially the peach of immortality, which was of great help to his cultivation of the great way of the five elements. Secondly, by chatting with Sun Wukong, he could learn some secrets of the heaven and earth. In addition, Sun Wukong's cultivation was not weak. He could learn from Sun Wukong. In terms of Tao, it was also very beneficial to his own cultivation. After leaving the Five Elements Mountain, Fang Qingshan's next destination was the Black Wind Mountain. The Black Bear monster on the Black Wind Mountain was a wild demon that could not be underestimated. In the entire Western Hinyu state, its combat strength was probably one of the top. Otherwise, it would not have been able to fight with Sun Wukong for hundreds of rounds and attract the Guanyin Bodhisattva's attention, making it the guardian deity of the mountain. It was a tough nut to crack. However, for Fang Qingshan, the more difficult it was to deal with, the more merit and providence he would get in the future after he subdued it. There was a worried eagle stream between the Shuangcha Ridge and the Black Wind Mountain. On the Shuangcha Ridge, Tripitaka lost his guard, and he lost his mount in the worried eagle stream. The third prince of the West Ocean Dragon Palace was hiding in the worried eagle stream. He was as unlucky as Sun Wukong. He was the son of an official and a rich family. However, he accidentally dropped his dragon pearl and was sued by his father to the heavenly court. He almost died on the dragon's severing platform. In the end, although he was lucky enough to escape with his life, he was unfortunately trapped in the worried eagle stream. In the end, his dragon pearl was taken away, and he turned into a white horse, carrying Tripitaka for tens of thousands of miles. Although it was a blessing in disguise in the end, and this position was something that many people yearned for, the little white dragon might not be willing to accept it. Of course, all of this had nothing to do with Fang Qingshan. He just took a look at the worried eagle stream when he passed by and left. From afar, Fang Qingshan felt a burst of Buddhist light rising into the sky, illuminating half of the sky. Fang Qingshan knew that was the Guanyin Temple. From this, it could be seen that Guanyin had been coveting the black bear monster on the Black Wind Mountain for a long time. The reason why he set up a Guanyin temple here was to make it convenient to monitor the black bear monster and subdue it when he traveled to the west in the future. Why didn't Guanyin come directly to him? Firstly, it was a loss of face. It was not good to take the initiative to visit him. Secondly, not everyone was willing to join the Guanyin temple. Background was valuable, but the price of backing was even higher. For freedom, both could be abandoned. The black bear monster was not the three monsters on the Shuangcha Ridge. If Guanyin wanted to subdue him, he would probably be rejected. Guanyin was afraid of losing face and couldn't beat him into submission without a good reason. Therefore, he left the Guanyin temple as a secret weapon. However, Fang Qingshan didn't have these concerns. He was ready to go to the black bear monster directly. Regardless of whether it was willing or not, he would first fight it and beat it into submission. Although the black bear monster was very powerful, for the sake of merit and luck, even if he couldn't beat it with his bare hands, he could still use spiritual treasures to suppress it. Chapter 7:15. Although the journey to the west hadn't officially started and Guanyin hadn't come from Mount Lingshan to the east, in order to avoid alerting Guanyin in advance, Fang Qingshan avoided the Guanyin Zen temple and took a detour to Black Wind Mountain. Thousands of ravines contended with each other, and thousands of cliffs competed for beauty. Birds sang, and people disappeared. Flowers fell, and trees were fragrant. After the rain, even the green walls were moist. When the wind came, the pine trees opened. Although it wasn't a Taoist cave abode or a famous mountain, It was also a quiet place and a good place for cultivation. But it was also a quiet place, a good place to cultivate. The bear was the black bear monster, the wolf, Ling Shu Zi, the snake, and the scholar in white. The bear was the black bear monster, the wolf, Ling Shu Zi, the snake, and the white-robed scholar. Among them, the wolf demon and the snake demon were just two people who fell along with the horse. They were only slightly more powerful than General Een of the Double Fork Ridge. But in terms of importance, they were not as important as General Yen. After all, the most important thing in Black Wind Mountain was the Black Wind Monster, and the two of them were dispensable. Where is the Black Bear Monster? Fang Qingshan came to the Black Wind Cave and directly challenged it without any nonsense. Come and die. For monsters, it was difficult to tame their wild nature, and they believed in strength. Strength was the hard truth. As for etiquette, justice, integrity, benevolence, righteousness, and morality, it was like playing the lute to a cow. There was only one way to make them surrender, and that was to beat them. Only when they were convinced could their words carry weight. Otherwise, how could they be convinced by empty words? Therefore, as soon as Fang Qingshan came up, he directly challenged the black bear monster to a fight. If he could win, of course, it would be best. If he couldn't win with his strength, then he would smash it with spirit treasures. Anyway, no matter what, he had to destroy his arrogance first, and then talk about other things. A stick in one hand and a carrot in the other was the fastest and best way to subdue a monster. In the Black Wind Cave, after sending off Ling Shuzi and the white-clad scholar, the black bear monster carefully took out a beehive. It shone with a golden light and gave off an exotic fragrance. It gave off a rainbow light, making one feel limp all over just by looking at it and smelling it. Bears, whether they were monsters or ordinary beasts, all had a hobby, which was honey. Besides, the honey could not only satisfy their appetite. For bears, honey was also the best elixir to improve their cultivation. The higher level the honey was, the more important it was to them. Not long ago, the black bear monster had snatched this beehive from Hundred Flowers Valley's fairy gold needle. Because of this, he had almost been seriously injured. Even though he had escaped quickly, he had been stung until his body was swollen for half a month. The Hundred Flowers Valley was a spiritual valley 3,000 miles away from Black Wind Mountain. Golden Needle Fairy was the monster king there, a rare beast golden jade bee. The bodies of these golden spirit jade bees were as hard as metal, especially their stingers, which had a bit of the golden spirit of heaven and earth. They were incomparably sharp, although they couldn't compare to Taoist Wind's mouth, which could pierce through anything. Ordinary defenses couldn't stop them at all, especially when the golden spirit jade bees appeared in groups, covering the sky and covering the earth. Golden jade bees cultivation jade bee spirits to jade bee even a they of Wang Yang Wang Mountain Li Tian Mountain God beast Wuyang bets they. Of course, this was not the most famous thing about them. The most famous thing about them was the spiritual honey they brewed from the exotic flowers of heaven and earth. It was comparable to high-grade natural treasures, and even comparable to natural spirit fruits. However, because of this, there were very few wild golden jade bees. Most of them were raised by powerful cultivators. No one knew how the Hundred Flowers Valley's golden jade bees came about. However, they were unlucky to be found out by the black bear monster. The black bear monster had high cultivation and thick skin, and the spiritual honey was very important to him. Every now and then, he would go and steal. If the black bear monster didn't know when to stop, and if the Golden Needle Fairy didn't have some tricks up her sleeves, the entire golden jade bee colony would have been raised by the black bear monster. This time, the Golden Needle Fairy used some of her trump cards and almost caused the black bear monster to fail miserably. On one hand, the black bear monster was annoyed by the insatiable black bear monster, and on the other hand, the spiritual honey they stole was extraordinary. It was very important to the Golden Needle Fairy's cultivation, as well as the reproduction and strength of the entire bee colony. Because of this, the black bear monster didn't take it out to entertain Ling Su Zi and the white-clothed scholar. He only started to enjoy it after they left. However, just as he took it out and was immersed in the fragrance, he was woken up by Fang Qingshan's shout. It was as if he was about to have an orgasm, but was suddenly interrupted. This feeling was extremely sour. Damn it, which bastard dares to behave atrociously in Grandpa Bear's territory? The black bear monster angrily put away the spiritual honey and grabbed the black tasseled spear that was leaning against the wall. His figure moved and turned into a black whirlwind, leaving the black wind cave. Eat Grandpa's spear. Seeing Fang Qingshan, the black bear monster did not say anything. He shook his arm and smashed his great spear towards Fang Qingshan. It was as if an ancient mountain was pressing down on him. Good move. Seeing the black bear monster's spear smashing down, Fang Qingshan's eyes lit up. He took out the All-Heaven sword and lightly flicked it, colliding with the spear tip. Although the All-Heaven sword was still the same All-Heaven sword, it was no longer the same as before. As Fang Qingshan's cultivation increased, it was constantly refined by various heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Now, in terms of grade, although it couldn't compare to Monkey Sun's Rui Jingu Bang, it was even better than the black tasseled spear. Clang! The sword and spear collided, and it erupted with a resounding sound of a bell and created a string of fine sparks. Even space itself was warped, and an extremely faint ripple was produced. Good again! Fang Qingshan and the black bear monster cheered at the same time. After they were both knocked back, they collided again at their fastest speed. The black bear monster thrust the spear in his hand, like the dawn, cutting through the darkness. A dark light, as if condensing the brilliance of heaven and earth, was dazzling and piercing through heaven and earth. Vaguely, one could hear the sound of horses and spears, war flags, war drums, and bugles. It was the intertwining of blood and fire. Fang Qingshan wasn't at a disadvantage either. The All-Heaven's sword in his hand drew a mysterious trajectory, like the birth of the sun. As the sword descended, it was like an undercurrent of a river pouring into a vast ocean. The two of them were truly evenly matched, a talented general meeting a talented general. One was a heavenly beast, the black bear monster, with unusual talent. Although the other was a human, he was a Dharma body double cultivator. They fought back and forth, and it was lively. The spear was like a dragon, and the sword moved mountains and rivers. It could be big and earth-shattering, but it could also be delicate and subtle, like dancing on the tip of a knife. They fought from the top of the mountain to the bottom, from the ground to the sky. After hundreds of rounds, the two fought more and more bravely, without the slightest sign of fatigue. Fortunately, this was the great world of the journey to the west. If they were in the immortal world, who knew how many spacetimes and creatures would suffer if they continued to fight like this? Chapter 716. Damn it, where did this guy come from? How could he be so powerful? Although he was fighting to his heart's content, the black bear monster could not help but mutter to himself. As a famous demon king in the entire western Hinyu province, the black bear monster knew all the experts in the market like the back of his hand. However, none of them were similar to Fang Qingshan. He did not know where Fang Qingshan came from or why he had come to Black Wind Mountain and made things difficult for him. Could he be a helper invited by Fairy Golden Needle? As the saying goes, a guilty conscience. The first thing the black bear monster thought of was the honeycomb he had just taken out and the Golden Needle Fairy. Thinking of this, the black bear monster panicked and subconsciously looked around. Although Fairy Golden Needle was not as strong as him, he now had a helper who was not weaker than him. If he were to hide in the dark and launch a sneak attack, he would be in a bad situation. Humph! You dared be distracted while fighting me. Although Fang Qingshan did not know what the black bear monster was thinking, he could not afford to be careless in a fight between experts. Victory or defeat might be decided in an instant. Taking advantage of the black bear monster's distraction, Fang Qingshan immediately seized the opportunity and used all kinds of marvelous skills. Stabbing, slashing, and slashing. The All-Heaven sword in Fang Qingshan's hands was simply playing with all kinds of tricks. Sometimes it was light as a feather, and sometimes it was as heavy as a mountain. Sometimes it was murderous and domineering. Sometimes it was like a gentle breeze and drizzling rain. Sometimes it was like the sun was high in the sky. Sometimes it was like a sea of blood was churning and ghosts were wailing and wolves were howling. Man and sword merged into one, using the 5 elements to evolve the myriad of great Taos. The dense sword light was dazzling and dazzling. Damn it! The black bear monster did not expect that his carelessness would cause the situation to take a turn for the worse. Unable to pay attention to the hidden fairy golden needle, the black bear monster quickly calmed down and responded calmly. Otherwise, even without the fairy golden needle sneak attack, he would probably be cut down by Fang Qingshan's sword. One wrong step led to many wrong steps. Unfortunately, he had already lost the initiative. It was easier said than done to get it back. Although Fang Qingshan's cultivation was lower than the black bear monster's and his combat experience was weaker, he was not any weaker than the black bear monster. However, in terms of combat power, it was not inferior to him at all. Moreover, because the grade of the all-heaven sword was higher than that of the black-tasseled spear, he even had the advantage. If the black bear monster was not distracted, even if they fought for another 100 rounds, the two of them would still be evenly matched. But now, Fang Qingshan seized the opportunity and attacked like a storm, not letting the black bear monster have a chance to breathe. In the beginning, the black bear monster's spear pointed at him with great momentum, taking the path of breaking 10,000 techniques with brute force. Fang Qingshan's sword was light and agile, taking the path of creating 10,000 techniques with one sword. At this moment, the tables had turned. Fang Qingshan did not use any exquisite sword moves. He directly circulated his physical strength and performed the heavy sword technique. There were only 2 words to describe it: speed and power. On the other hand, the black bear monster might look like a big fool, but when it came to using techniques, it was actually as easy as using an arm. You can't be tough for long, and you can't be soft for long. After all, the black bear monster had lost the upper hand. In terms of techniques, although he knew and was proficient in them, he was not suitable for such a fighting style. After another 100 or so moves, under Fang Qingshan's fast and accurate attacks, the black bear monster was exhausted. Damn it, I'm done for today. The black bear monster had already thought of the 36 stratagems. Escape was the best plan. After all, he was afraid that he would not be able to hold on for another 100 or so rounds. At that time, even if he wanted to escape, it would be too late. After all, in his heart, there was still fairy golden needle hiding. Ayaya, if the tiger doesn't show its power, you'll think that I'm a sick cat. The black bear monster roared angrily. Take my overturning of desolation. The black bear monster raised his spear as if the entire Black Wind Mountain had been lifted up, the earth quaked, and the mountains shook. Good heavens, it really has the power to overturn the earth. In fact, what Fang Qingshan did not know was that the black bear monster was actually an ancient demonic beast. Otherwise, how could a wild monster like him cultivate to the level of the Sun Wukong? How talented must he be? If that was really the case, there was no need for Guanyin to enlighten him. Even the sage would probably accept him as a disciple. The black bear monster was a descendant of the ancient earth bear. Although the earth bear was not as good as the 3-legged golden crow or the Kuan Peng, it could only be regarded as a middle-level race among the demon clan. It was not inferior to the weaker superior races. It was reasonable to say that the black bear monster was not without a background and could barely be regarded as a second generation. Unfortunately, the ancient Magi Demon War had greatly damaged the power of the demon clan. Even the Golden Crow clan only had Mahavarokana left, not to mention the others. In the entire Earth Bear clan, except for the Black Bear monster, it was hard to find a second one. It was also because of his identity that Guanyin wanted to subdue him, not only because of his talent, but also because he carried the luck of the Earth Bear clan. It was also because of his inherited memory that he could cultivate to this stage alone. The Earth Bear clan was somewhat similar to the Hutu clan of the Wu people. They were born with the law of Earth. Standing on the ground, they could not be said to be invincible, but their defense was unparalleled and their strength was enhanced. This was also why the black bear monster could fight evenly with Sun Wukong, whose strength had declined. It should be known that Sun Wukong was used to challenging those of a higher level. And this move, overturning desolation, was the unique skill of the Earth Bear clan. It was said that the ancestor of the Earth Bear clan used it on the battlefield of the Sorcerer and Demon War, stirring up hundreds of thousands of mountains and rivers and burying a great wizard of the Wu people. If one could really cultivate it to the extreme, it would be possible to live up to its name. Of course, it was a bit exaggerated, like the heavenly dog swallowing the moon. After all, even if one became a sage, or even Daozu might not be able to stir up the whole earth desolation. But it could be seen how powerful this move was. Of course, the black bear monster was not as powerful as his ancestor. But under the spear, he also provoked the power of the whole Black Wind Mountain to suppress it. Good move. Seeing that, Fang Qingshan's eyes suddenly lit up, and he gave a soft shout. Where the sword points is the territory. The all-heaven sword in Fang Qingshan's hand made a sword flower, and then streaked across the air in a mysterious trajectory, as if the painting sage had picked up the brush and splashed ink into a painting. Mountains and rivers, seas and grasslands, snowy peaks and basins, mountains and rivers. Flowers, trees, birds, beasts, insects, fish, billions of creatures, all of them were living well. The emperor sat in the royal city, and his words were the law. He ruled over all things, from the changes of the wind and clouds to natural and man-made disasters. Everything was in that one sword move. Fang Qingshan had once obtained a bit of the Yellow Emperor's legacy from Zhang Jiao. Later, he established a country in the eternal world. Therefore, he had a unique feeling about the Emperor's way of the sword. Now, he used the skill of one sword to create myriad laws to evolve the world. With one sword move, it was as if the whole dynasty was attacking at the same time. It was not inferior to the black bear monster's overturning desolation. Chapter 717. Boom! The sword and the spear collided. It was as if lightning had struck the ground. Countless fine and dense cobwebs appeared in the air. Countless sharp energies shot out in all directions, like a kaleidoscope. Very beautiful. Fang Qingshan's palm was dripping with blood. Half of his body was slightly trembling, and he could not help but retreat 30 feet. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. Of course, the black bear monster was not much better. The black tasseled spear in his hand had already flown out, firmly nailed in front of the Black Wind Cave's entrance. He himself was like a ragged sack, flying backwards. However, this distance seemed to be a little too far. Just as Fang Qingshan was puzzled, he saw the black bear monster's clumsy body twist in the air nimbly. He did not even want the black tasseled spear, and his body turned into a black wind, soaring into the sky, actually wanting to escape without a trace. It was a trick full of tricks. Back then, Fang Qingshan also used this trick to leave the land of origin, but at this moment he was given a taste of his own medicine. Just as Fang Qingshan was stunned, the black bear monster had already rushed out of the Black Wind Mountain with lightning speed. Buzz! At this time, in the east, west, north, and south, there was a pearl blooming with 5-colored light, like 5 bright stars in the sky, mutually reinforcing and restraining, intertwining. A 5-colored light cover, like an upside-down bowl, enveloped the entire Black Wind Mountain. The black bear monster crashed into the thin layer of light, but it was as if it had crashed into the hardest diamond. Ouch! A scream accompanied the sound of the yellow bell resounded throughout the entire Black Wind Mountain. The mountains and valleys responded, and the birds were startled. Since Fang Qingshan knew that there was a Guanyin temple at the foot of the Black Wind Mountain, and knew to avoid it, how could he not know that if his movements were too big when fighting with the black bear monster, it would also alarm Guanyin? Therefore, before the challenge, Fang Qingshan released the 5-element spirit pearl to cover the entire Black Wind Mountain. In this way, even if there was a huge commotion inside, no one outside would be able to hear anything. Not to mention that this was just a Guanyin monastery, with only a wisp of Guanyin's will. Even if Guanyin came personally, without careful observation, she would not be able to find any clues. Seeing the black bear monster being knocked back, its forehead was swollen. Those who didn't know better would think that it had grown a horn. Fang Qingshan didn't continue to attack. He didn't fight with the black bear monster because he wanted to be brave or because he wanted to kill him. He just wanted to beat him into submission and then subdue him so that he could earn merit points in the journey to the west. Now, after fighting for so long, the black bear monster had begun to flee. The goal of this battle had basically been achieved. Fang Qingshan naturally wouldn't waste any more effort. Now that the stick had landed, it was Radish's turn. However, before Fang Qingshan could speak, the black bear monster saw that Fang Qingshan did not attack immediately and did not feel any killing intent from him. He could not help but secretly heave a sigh of relief. He rolled his eyes and took the lead to shout, "Fairy Golden Needle, I've only eaten a bit of your spiritual honey, and I've already paid the price for it last time. You're going too far, aren't you? You actually invited someone to help you deal with me? At a time like this, I admit defeat. There's no need for you to hide anymore." Seeing that the entire Black Wind Mountain had been sealed, the black bear monster was even more certain of his guess. Other than Fairy Golden Needle, there was no one else who had such a huge conflict with him. Not only did they invite help, they even sealed off his path of retreat in advance. Fairy Gold Needle? Fang Qingshan was stunned when he heard the black bear monster shout. Who was this Fairy Golden Needle? What did this have to do with her? The black bear monster was waiting for the Fairy Golden Needle to appear in his mind, but Fang Qingshan was at a loss. The air immediately quieted down. After a while, Fang Qingshan finally came back to his senses. He looked at the black bear monster with a strange gaze and asked, "Old Black, what Fairy Golden Needle? You're not playing with me, are you? Old Black? My name is Xiongba." The black bear monster was also choked by Fang Qingshan's way of addressing him. It then corrected Fang Qingshan's way of addressing him. Then it was stunned and asked subconsciously. Then he subconsciously asked, "Aren't you the helper that Fairy Golden Needle invited?" Fairy Golden Needle didn't come either? Xiongba. Hearing this name, Fang Qingshan could not help but fall silent for a moment. Then he said, "I don't know any Fairy Golden Needle, so naturally I'm not the helper she invited." Ah. The black bear monster was dumbfounded when he heard that. If not for the fact that Fairy Golden Needle was hiding in the dark and preparing to launch a sneak attack on him, Fang Qingshan would not have caught the black bear monster's flaw. Although the outcome was destined, if Fang Qingshan did not use his numinous treasure, he would probably not be able to defeat the black bear monster, even if he fought for 3 days and 3 nights. Then who are you? Why did you come to my Black Wind Mountain? Do you want to seize the Black Wind Cave and become the king? The black bear monster asked resentfully. I'm from the Ren School, the 2nd-generation direct disciple, Fang Qingshan. Fang Qingshan introduced himself calmly. As for why I came to the Black Wind Mountain, it's naturally not to occupy the mountain and become the king, but for you. What? The 2nd-generation direct disciple of Ren School? How is that possible? The black bear monster exclaimed in disbelief. Although he did not have any background now, he naturally knew what it meant to be the 2nd-generation direct disciple of Ren School because of his bloodline. Although he knew that Fang Qingshan did not dare to pretend to be the 2nd-generation direct disciple of Ren School, he was still doubtful. Apart from the great Taoist master Xiandu, the 2nd-generation of Ren School did not seem to have any other disciples. The reason for that was naturally because Fang Qingshan's cultivation level was still low at that time. Moreover, he disappeared after the Great God-Conferment Tribulation. Apart from the people from the 3 sects or his old friends from the Great God-Conferment Tribulation back then, very few people knew about Fang Qingshan's name. Seeing that the black bear monster did not believe him, Fang Qingshan smiled faintly. His body swayed, and he used the 1-Qi Sanqing again. This time, the black bear monster was completely silent. So you're a disciple of a saint. No wonder you're so impressive. After a while, the black bear monster muttered to himself. He had accepted the fact that he had failed. It was not embarrassing to be defeated by a saint. I wonder what's going on when you said that you're here for me? Xiongba recalled Fang Qingshan's words and continued to ask. I'm here to save you. Fang Qingshan smiled. Save me? If not for the fact that Fang Qingshan was a disciple of Rin's school and that he had lost him previously, the black bear monster would have stabbed him with his spear long ago. You don't believe me? Fang Qingshan explained calmly when he saw the black bear monster's gaze. Do you know why there's a Guanyin Zen temple in this desolate place? Do you know that the great tribulation of journey to the west has already begun? Do you know? Fang Qingshan unhurriedly told him everything he knew in full detail and analyzed it. In the beginning, the black bear monster did not take it seriously. However, gradually he broke out in cold sweat and felt a lingering fear. Chapter 718. He was sitting at home, but trouble came from Tianshan. The black bear monster didn't expect that he would unknowingly fall into a great calamity while cultivating in the mountains. All living things in the world sought freedom. Apart from the great Tao, all living things in the world pursued freedom and freedom. Most of the time, the pursuit of the great Tao was also for better freedom and freedom, not eternal immortality. Therefore, during the God Conferment War, even the weakest outer sect disciple of the Jie school scoffed at it, even though he knew that there were many benefits to entering the heavenly courts. It was the same for the demons. Unless it was absolutely necessary or there was really an irresistible temptation, few demons would be willing to give up their freedom. The black bear monster naturally didn't want to become the watchdog of Guanin's back garden, although he might have an additional backer and might often listen to Guanin's preaching. However, compared to the freedom in the Black Wind Mountain, it was naturally obvious how to choose. After all, although he was also a wild demon, he had a bloodline inheritance. Cultivation was not a problem, so naturally, he didn't need to give up his freedom for cultivation. I wonder what you want, Elder. As the saying goes, one who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Although the black bear monster looked naive, he had a lot of thoughts in his mind. He didn't believe all that Fang Qingshan was a good person like the ancient red clouds. After knowing the news, he specially came to remind him. As the saying goes, everything in the world comes for benefits, and everything in the world goes for benefits. The black bear monster wasn't afraid to speculate about others with the worst of intentions. He was not related to Fang Qingshan, but Fang Qingshan came all the way to remind him that there was a calamity in his life. If it wasn't for something, what else could it be? Awesome. Hearing the black bear monster's straightforward question, Fang Qingshan clapped his hands and praised. In that case, I won't hide it anymore. The reason why I told Brother Bear is naturally because there was nothing that couldn't be said. Although Fang Qingshan was scheming against the black bear monster, it was much more open than him falling into Guanin's trap and losing his freedom in the end. You mean, like Guanin, you want to subdue me and then seize the merit of journey to the west? The black bear monster looked at Fang Qingshan with a strange expression and asked. Yes. Fang Qingshan nodded without changing his expression. Hee. If that's the case, why should I join your sect? The black bear sneered. In terms of background, although Guanin had left the sect and betrayed the heavenly lord of primordial beginning, she was still doing well. Behind her stood the two saints of Buddhism. He was no worse than the old man behind Fang Qingshan. Moreover, Rin School did not do anything, and the Buddhists prospered. In comparison, it was clearly better to join the Buddhists. In terms of cultivation, Fang Qingshan obviously could not catch up to Guanin. In ancient times, he was one of the 12 golden immortals of the Chan sect. Even though he was not as powerful as Duo Bao, he was still a demi-sage. In terms of status, he was one of the 4 great bodhisattvas of Buddhism. His status was higher than that of ordinary Buddhists. As for Fang Qingshan, apart from being the second-generation direct disciple of Rin School and being unknown, he was nothing. If he really had to choose someone to rely on, Guanin was obviously the best choice. In the face of the black bear monster's sarcasm, Fang Qingshan was like a breeze. He did not care at all and said lightly, "Why do you want to join me? Why do you want to become my disciple? Listen to me slowly. In that case, I'd like to hear if you can talk like the Buddhists." The black bear monster sneered when he heard that. This was also because Fang Qingshan's previous combat power had convinced him. Otherwise, how could the black bear monster so easily and calmly listen to someone asking him to rely on him? First of all, although I don't have any advantage compared to Guanyin, since I can be compared with him, it means that the disadvantage is not so obvious. I can give you everything he can, and I can give you what he can't. Moreover, although Guanyin is stronger than me now, it is better to bully a white-headed old man than to bully a poor young man. Guanyin obtained the Tao in ancient times, and I was only an Earth immortal when I joined the Ren School. It is only a matter of time before I catch up with him. Fang Qingshan said confidently. Secondly, sincerity. Guanyin is scheming against you, but I'm looking for you with sincerity. I believe you understand the difference between the two. Furthermore, the Guanyin is a slave, so she values the earthen bear's bloodline's luck the most. But I'm different. I value the journey to the west karmic luck the most, followed by the earthen bear's bloodline's luck. Furthermore, I won't enslave you, so you're free. You won't become a watchdog in the Locket Mountain. Hearing Fang Qingshan's words, the black bear monster fell into silence. Fang Qingshan wasn't bothered by it, and quietly waited for the black bear monster to digest it. In fact, the black bear monster had already made a choice after hearing Fang Qingshan's words. It might not be a choice that he was willing to make, but he had no other choice. After all, if he did make a choice, not to mention that Fang Qingshan wouldn't let go of the fortune of the journey to the west, he would still fall into Guanyin's hands. He couldn't escape even if he wanted to. After all, he had no choice but to lower his head under the eaves. Compared to Guanyin, Fang Qingshan was the best choice. As for the reason, Fang Qingshan had already told him. Greetings, young master. I'm Tyrant Bear. Since he had made up his mind, the black bear monster immediately bowed towards Fang Qingshan to confirm their master-servant relationship. Good. I believe that you will not regret your wise choice today. Fang Qingshan couldn't help praising the black bear monster 3 times. He had obtained another merit. Although he had robbed Guanyin's beard, Fang Qingshan wasn't afraid. Not to mention that he had the old lord as his backing. He wouldn't be afraid of Guanyin even if they fought. At worst, the Timeless Arc will be promoted directly. The Timeless Arc of Ling Yun's level could be called the King of Daluo, and the Timeless Arc of Unparalleled level was naturally comparable to a quasi-saint. Moreover, the promotion of the Timeless Arc and the Eternal Blessing were equivalent to Hong Jun Tiandao's creation empowerment, and there would be no sequelae to improve his cultivation. At that time, his cultivation would be improved, and the Timeless Arc would be further improved. Fang Qingshan believed that he would definitely not be weaker than Guanyin. Of course, there was a reason why Fang Qingshan was willing to offend Guanyin and subdue the black bear monster. The black bear monster was different from other mounts. First of all, it was a wild monster. Although it was an ancient earth bear, it was now just a loner and had nothing to do with other forces. Although Guanyin wanted to subdue the black bear monster, she didn't put it out in the open. Fang Qingshan could pretend that he didn't know. In this way, it could only be said that he had the upper hand by making the first move. Guanyin could only suffer in silence. Although she bore a grudge in her heart and secretly made trouble, she couldn't say anything on the surface. Putting all these aside, since the black bear monster had already pledged allegiance to Fang Qingshan, in order to leave a good impression on his lord, he took out the 100-flower spiritual honey that he had kept in his collection and hadn't had the time to consume and offered it to Fang Qingshan. Chapter 719. Child, this is the 100 flowers spiritual honey brewed by the golden spirit jade bee, an ancient exotic insect. It's comparable to the connate spiritual fruit. Have a taste. The black bear monster reluctantly took out the spiritual honey and handed it to Fang Qingshan. The reason why he was willing to do this was to leave a good impression on Fang Qingshan and also to set up an ambush. Before Fang Qingshan could say anything, he was attracted by a strange fragrance. The fragrance was so strong that it penetrated his bones. It was not too strong, but it had a natural smell which made the pores all over his body relax. His mood instantly returned to a state of tranquility like a bird flying in the sky, looking at the peak of the mountain to calm down. Fang Qingshan almost had the same feeling as when Monkey Sun took out the 9,000-year-old Satyr Peach at the foot of the Five Elements Mountain. Fang Qingshan didn't take it seriously at first, but now he changed his expression. He took the spiritual honey from the black bear monster, took a drop, and swallowed it. For a moment, it was as vast as the Feng Su riding the wind, but no one knew where it was going. It was as if it was floating in the air, as if it was aloof from the world, ascending to immortality. Good. After a while, Fang Qingshan opened his eyes, and his face was full of admiration. Although it wasn't as good as the 9,000-year-old Saturn Peach, it wasn't much worse than the 3,000-year-old Saturn Peach. I didn't expect you to have such a good thing. Fang Qingshan looked at the black bear monster in surprise. You really shouldn't judge a book by its cover. No one could know what kind of trump cards and treasures an ordinary person had until the right time. The black bear monster was a wild monster, but it had such a treasure. It was not to be underestimated. One had to know that Fang Qingshan also had a 100-flower garden because of the sky ship. He also raised demonic bees in the garden and brewed spiritual honey. However, compared to the spiritual honey of the jade bees, the difference was incalculable. In fact, what Fang Qingshan didn't know was that this spiritual honey was rare even for the Golden Needle Fairy. Ordinary spiritual honey was better than the one brewed by his demonic bees, but it was definitely not as good as the 3,000-year-old Saturn Peach. As long as young master likes it. The black bear monster received Fang Qingshan's praise. For a moment, the reluctance and pain in its heart couldn't help but lessen a little. If young master likes it, I'll go to the 100 Flowers Valley and get some more from Fairy Golden Needle. Fairy Golden Needle? Hearing the black bear monster mention this name again, Fang Qingshan could not help but be curious. Didn't you say I was a helper hired by that Fairy Golden Needle? Don't tell me it's because you stole their spiritual honey? Young master, it's like this. Seeing that Fang Qingshan asked, the black bear monster knew that it was exactly what he wanted. He didn't hide it and told the story in full detail. Finally, he added a few words of encouragement. Young master, I think you should subdue them as well. Although they have nothing to do with the journey to the west and can't bring you good karma, just their ability to make honey is worth it. On the surface, he seemed to be speaking righteously and for the good of Fang Qingshan. But secretly, the black bear monster had his own little plan. If these golden spirit jade bees were also subdued by Fang Qingshan, there would be a family in the future. At that time, if he wanted to eat some spiritual honey, he wouldn't have to take such a risk. Although Fang Qingshan didn't know the black bear monster's little plan, he wouldn't care even if he knew, because he was really interested in this fairy gold needle. If he subdued her, it would be equivalent to having a top-notch innate spiritual root. For resources, Fang Qingshan was willing to do anything. He didn't even let go of many ordinary treasures, let alone spiritual honey that was comparable to innate spiritual fruits. Since that's the case, you can lead the way. Fang Qingshan was also a decisive person. He immediately let the black bear monster lead him to the 100 Flowers Valley. Hearing this, the black bear monster was overjoyed. Without saying anything, he turned into a black wind and led Fang Qingshan to the 100 Flowers Valley, which was 3,000 miles away. With their speed, the distance of 1,000 miles was naturally covered in a flash. This is the 100 Flowers Valley? Looking at the small hill in front of him, Fang Qingshan couldn't connect it with the 100 Flowers Valley. Young master, the 100 Flowers Valley is here. Seeing Fang Qingshan's puzzled expression, the black bear monster smiled proudly. The 100 Flowers Valley is a small kiliacosm attached to the sector, and the entrance is here. Even if ordinary people come here, they won't be able to find the entrance. In fact, this was also the reason why the golden spirit jade bees were still alive here. Under normal circumstances, no one would be able to discover this entrance if the mighty figures didn't show themselves. The reason why the black bear monster found this place was because of his special sense of spiritual honey. Hearing this, Fang Qingshan raised an eyebrow. He secretly observed. After a while, as the black bear monster said, ordinary people really wouldn't be able to find it. However, since Fong Qingshan was sure that the entrance was here, he naturally had a way to make it appear. Power, 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 infinite power break. Fong Qingshan executed the heavenly Tao verification mantra's physical body technique, augmenting it with his physical body mystique and manifesting his Dharma form. His fingers formed a fist seal, and he punched the air forcefully. It was a fist that was like a falling sun. There was no fancy moves, only infinite power, and the fist emitted infinite light. Dong! The entire void trembled. Although it only took a moment for everything to return to normal, Fong Qingshan had already achieved his goal. Just now, Fong Qingshan had discovered a strange place while the void was shaking. If he guessed correctly, it was the entrance to the 100 Flowers Valley. Fong Qingshan came to the place he had just sensed and punched again. This time, a hole slowly appeared in the void. Seeing this scene, the black bear monster couldn't help but be dumbfounded. In fact, Fong Qingshan also had the advantage of knowing the result and deducing the process. If he hadn't been told that this was the entrance to the 100 Flowers Valley, Fong Qingshan definitely wouldn't have probed it. "Let's go in." Fong Qingshan called out to the black bear monster and took the lead. "Young master, be careful. That fairy golden needle isn't easy to deal with." Seeing Fong Qingshan's actions, the black bear monster seemed to have woken up from a dream. He hurriedly called out to him, but it was too late. Having no time to think, the black bear monster could only follow along with the gentleman. He gritted his teeth and followed in. After a moment of dizziness, Fong Qingshan didn't have time to adapt to the new environment before he felt a murderous intent rushing towards him. Then he heard a delicate shout. "How dare you intrude into the 100 Flowers Valley? Die!" Before he could finish his sentence, a wave of golden light shot towards Fong Qingshan like a goddess scattering flowers. Seeing this, Fong Qingshan moved his feet almost instinctively and used the all-heaven 5 elements chess. Although the golden light was fast and sharp, it was clearly not enough to hurt Fong Qingshan. At this moment, the black bear monster also followed in. He was an old acquaintance. Seeing him, the person who had just attacked Fong Qingshan was instantly enraged. "Ring the bell to warn us. That damn black bear is here again." Chapter 720. Dang, 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 dang. The entire 100 Flowers Valley was alarmed. Buzz, buzz. Following that, rays of golden light flew out from all directions and gathered together in an instant. It was like a sun rising into the sky, bursting out a burst of dazzling golden light, causing people to squint their eyes uncontrollably. Hearing the thunderous sound and seeing the dazzling golden light, Fong Qingshan could not help but have a strange expression. If not for the fact that he knew that Mosquito Doran did not follow him to the journey to the west, and if not for the fact that Mosquito Doran's doppelgangers were blood red, Fong Qingshan thought that Mosquito Doran had attacked. Seeing the golden spirit jade bees in front of him, the black bear monster was so scared that he almost turned around and fled. Fortunately, he knew that he had become Fong Qingshan's disciple, so he could not run away before Fong Qingshan escaped. At this moment, he was filled with regret. If he had known, he would have explained things to Fong Qingshan. At the same time, he blamed Fong Qingshan for being too reckless. The entrance to the 100 Flowers Valley was no longer a secret to the golden spirit jade bees, because the black bear monster had sneaked in many times to steal spiritual honey. Every time the black bear monster wanted to enter, he had to be very careful. Otherwise, once the people in the 100 Flowers Valley were alarmed, all his previous efforts would be in vain. He did not expect that he was just showing off in front of Fong Qingshan. Fong Qingshan used brute force to find and break the entrance of the 100 Flowers Valley. That was also why Fong Qingshan was attacked as soon as he entered. Kill. As the saying went, when enemies met, their eyes would turn red. The black bear monster had stolen the spiritual honey, which was very precious to the golden spirit jade bees. It actually dared to appear in front of them in such a short time. It was simply a blatant provocation. The JBs who rushed over after receiving the alarm shot out their JB needles without saying a word. Although the Golden Spirit JBs did not have millions of doppelgangers like Mosquito Dowrin, there were still tens of thousands of them. With a flash of golden light, a torrential downpour of pear blossoms. The entire space was riddled with holes, invincible and rarely difficult to break. Young master, be careful. Seeing this scene, the black bear monster's expression changed drastically. After reminding Fong Qingshan, it hurriedly displayed its defensive means. Earth protection. As soon as he finished speaking, a khaki-colored barrier appeared in front of the black bear monster, and Fong Qingshan at a speed visible to the naked eye. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Although Fong Qingshan was shocked, he didn't panic. With a thought, he formed a sword with his fingers and drew a circle in front of him. Magic power surged, and the law was outlined. In an instant, a five-colored brilliance flickered with the Tao of the five elements. It seemed illusory yet real, as heavy as the 33 heavens, and as deep as the ruins of End. Five elements bracelet. The bracelet spun in mid-air, releasing a five-colored cloud that swept toward the golden needles. In an instant, the entire sky was clean. It wasn't just the gold spirit wasps that were dumbstruck when they saw this scene. Their mouths gaped wide open and didn't close for a long time. Even the black bear beast's eyes that were like copper bells were open wide, and his eyeballs almost fell out. Although the King Kong ring that the Grand Supreme Elder refined had already been displayed when Sun Wukong wreaked havoc in the heavenly court. But to truly shine like Kong Xian's five-color divine light, it would have to wait for the green bull to descend in the future. Whether it was a person or an object, real or illusory, none of them could escape the circle. It could transform, be impervious to water and fire, attack all things, and obtain all kinds of Dharma treasures. It had endless uses. How great would it be if I knew this spell? Although the black bear monster had thick skin and flesh, and ordinary jade bees couldn't cause fatal damage to him. But that feeling was very refreshing. He thought that if he knew this spell, he wouldn't have to suffer when he stole honey in the future. Thief, what kind of demonic spell did you use to steal our JB needles? Return them quickly. After a while, the JBs came back to their senses and berated Fong Qingshan. Demonic spell? I'm not a demon. Fong Qingshan chuckled. As for returning them to you, that's even more impossible. Do you want me to let you continue attacking me? Sir, you're also an expert. Why make things difficult for my people and lose your status for no reason? At this moment, a cold voice rang out, following which a rain of flowers appeared before his eyes, and an elegant figure walked out. Black Bear, you're here again. You even brought a helper. Do you really think that the Golden Spirit JBs are pushovers and can't do anything to you? At most, we'll fight to the death. The person who came was the leader of the Golden Spirit JBs, Fairy Golden Needle. She hated the black bear monster to the bone. If she could, she would immediately cut it into 1,000 pieces to vent the hatred in her heart. However, she knew that the black bear monster was not so easy to deal with, especially under the premise that there was an additional helper. Moreover, the five elements bracelet that Fong Qingshan had previously used greatly shocked her. She had some fear in her heart, so she did not directly attack. Fairy, you've misunderstood. I'm not here to fight, nor for the spiritual honey. The black bear monster laughed strangely. Oh, that's strange. Then why are you here? The golden needle, Fairy sneered. I'm here to save your life, of course. The black bear monster used what Fong Qingshan had used on him on the golden needle. Before she could speak, the black bear monster continued. As the saying goes, there's no such thing as an impenetrable wall. If I can find the 100 Flowers Valley, others can too. So the 100 Flowers Valley is no longer safe. If others find out about the 100 Flowers Valley, you should know what the consequences will be. Hearing this, Fairy Golden Needle and the others' expressions changed. Indeed, ever since the black bear monster discovered the entrance to the 100 Flowers Valley, a few more waves of people had entered. Although they had dealt with everyone except the black bear monster, who could guarantee that there wouldn't be another one? And The next one would be someone they could deal with. The golden spirit jade bees were blessed by nature. They could brew spiritual honey that was comparable to connate spirit fruits, and their jade bee needles were extremely sharp. They could be called killing weapons and natural spirit treasures. They would also attract the jealousy of celestials. If they were lucky, they would be suppressed and kept as pets by powerful figures. If they were unlucky, they would be exterminated. At the end of the day, an innocent man would get into trouble because of his wealth. Whether it was the spiritual honey, the jade bee needles, or even the bodies of the jade bees, they were all great treasures. The spiritual honey could improve one's cultivation. The jade bee needles could be refined into spirit treasures, and the jade bees could be used as a carrier for a second primordial spirit. You don't have to think about abandoning this place and finding a new place to settle down. Things are different now than in ancient times. Good places already have owners. Without the 100 Flowers Valley, I'm afraid your reproduction will be a problem, let alone your cultivation. The black bear monster knew the jade bees very well, so he blocked their path of retreat. Chapter 721. What good idea do you have then? The black bear monster had already said everything. What else could Fairy Golden Needle say? She had no choice but to follow the black bear monster's words. Far away, but close at hand, the black bear monster kept her in suspense. What do you mean? Fairy Golden Needle frowned slightly. Let me introduce you, Fairy. The black bear monster did not explain immediately. Instead, he pointed at Fong Qingshan, who was quietly watching his performance. This is my young master, Fong Qingshan, the second-generation heir of the Ren School. Your young master? Fairy Golden Needle was stunned at first. Then, just like the black bear monster, she was shocked. The second-generation heir of the Ren School? Fairy Golden Needle sized up Fong Qingshan in bewilderment. Although surprised, Fairy Golden Needle did not doubt the black bear monster's words. There was no need for that, and it would not be worth it. So you're a disciple of a saint. No wonder. Young Master Fong, please return the jade needles to my people. Fong Qingshan did not say anything else. He waved his hand and returned the jade needles to them. Given his methods, he was not afraid that they would go back on their words and attack again. He was just joking earlier. Thank you for your magnanimity, young master. Seeing that Fong Qingshan had really returned the jade needles, Fairy Golden Needle could not help but secretly heave a sigh of relief. The jade needles were equivalent to the Dharma treasures of the jade wasps. They were bound together for good and bad. Once they were damaged, the jade wasps would be crippled. Once the jade wasps were gone, the entire jade wasps would be on the verge of extinction. There's no need for that. I came to the 100 Flowers Valley this time for you. Fong Qingshan did not want to waste any more time and went straight to the point. He went straight to the point and said, I hope you will submit to me. This is the way you found for us to survive? Fairy Golden Needle turned to look at the black bear monster and sneered. That's right. The black bear nodded affirmatively. Before Fairy Golden Needle could activate her taunt mode, the black bear continued. Once your golden spirit jade wasps are exposed, unless you possess absolute strength, there are only two paths that you can take. One is to rely on others, or be enslaved and raised as livestock. The other is death. Rather than a life and death struggle or being enslaved by others, it's better to choose someone to rely on. Rather than choosing someone else, it's better to choose my young master. We can be considered old acquaintances. Naturally, I won't harm you. My young master is the second-generation direct disciple of Ren School. This identity is definitely enough for you to join him. Although young master's current cultivation base can't compare to those ancient almighty beings, that's only because he started cultivating late. In addition, the young master will not enslave or restrict you. Just look at me and you'll know. Fairy Golden Needle didn't say anything, but the clansmen were already tempted. I can also provide you with a better environment than the 100 Flowers Valley. Fong Qingshan added. For the golden spirit jade wasps, it was fine if the spiritual energy was thin and they didn't have any medicinal pills. However, they definitely could not lack all kinds of spiritual flowers. These were not only the raw materials for brewing spiritual honey, but also related to their cultivation and reproduction. If the previous conditions had only tempted Fairy Golden Needle and the others, they were completely tempted at this moment. Indeed, a territory like this was far too important to their race. Moreover, I'm at the chopping block now, and you're the meat on the chopping block. You should think carefully about what to do, Fong Qingshan said calmly. Just like how he subdued the black bear earlier, he had a carrot in one hand and a stick in the other. That was the best way to subdue them. Are you threatening us, Taoist priest? The eyes of Golden Needle, who was initially tempted, immediately turned cold. You're right. Fong Qingshan nodded. Old Bear was wrong about something earlier. Although my cultivation base can't compare to the ancient almighty beings, in terms of combat power, I'm not that far off. As soon as he finished speaking, an overwhelming pressure gushed out from Fong Qingshan's body like a torrential flood, like a vast ocean. In an instant, the entire Hundred Flowers Valley seemed to have descended with heavenly might. Everyone couldn't help but tremble. Even Fairy Golden Needle and the Black Bear couldn't help but hunch their backs, tremble, and sweat dripping down their bodies. Just how many trump cards does the young master have hidden? As expected of a disciple of a saint. Fortunately, I was smart enough to surrender early. Otherwise, if he had resisted stubbornly, he would have ended up in a terrible state. The Black Bear sighed in admiration at Fong Qingshan's strength and rejoiced at his wise decision. As for Fairy Golden Needle, she had a different feeling. She felt that if she really refused, the disciple of a saint would not be lenient. It was as if there was a sharp sword hanging over her head. Even though Fairy Golden Needle had said that it would be a life-and-death struggle, it would be a waste of effort. If the fish died and the net remained intact, it would be a waste of effort. Obviously, no one would do something that they knew was meaningless. What's your choice, Fairy? Fong Qingshan immediately retracted his aura, but to Fairy Golden Needle and the rest, it felt like a long time had passed. They almost couldn't breathe, and some even fell to the ground. What else can I choose? I have no choice at all. Fairy Golden Needle smiled bitterly. Then she bowed to Fong Qingshan. Greetings, young master. Greetings, young master. The other members of the Golden Spirit Jade tribe naturally followed suit. You won't regret this decision. Fong Qingshan nodded in satisfaction. With that, Fong Qingshan waved his hand and kept Fairy Golden Needle in his connate small world. After a while, he let her out. His initial reluctance had completely disappeared. This was all because of the various strange flowers in the connate small world. Fong Qingshan had traveled through many worlds and obtained many strange flowers. He also had the triple light sacred water and the living soil of the 9 heavens. Then there was the world tree of 10,000 wood. The entire connate small world was like a plant storehouse. To Fairy Golden Needle, this was the most precious place in the world. With this place, not only could she improve her cultivation, but her tribe could also grow stronger. Go, tidy up this place and we'll leave. Looking at Fairy Golden Needle, who wouldn't leave even if he chased her away, Fong Qingshan smiled faintly. Yes, Fairy Golden Needle obeyed obediently. She led her tribe and took away everything that could be taken from the Hundred Flowers Valley. After all, it was worth a fortune to destroy a family. After leaving the Hundred Flowers Valley, Fong Qingshan and the Black Bear monster parted ways. The Black Bear monster naturally returned to Black Wind Mountain and waited for the journey to the West team to arrive. As for Fong Qingshan, he continued west, preparing to subdue another wild monster. But before that, Fong Qingshan planned to go to Gao Village to see his martial nephew. Chapter 722. Gao Village. That was the border of Yusang. It was also the place occupied by Fong Qingshan's disciple nephew. Since he knew that he was there, he naturally could not enter. However, his disciple nephew's fate was a little bad. He was the 3rd-generation direct disciple of Ren School, the disciple of the great Taoist Master Xiandu, and the Heavenly Court's Marshal Tianpeng. However, compared to the others, he was already considered good. Monkey Sun had been suppressed for 500 years, and his heart monkey had been locked. Monk Shy had been banished to Quicksand River. Every 7 days, a flying sword would shoot from the sky and pierce through his chest. The little white dragon had been trapped in the eagle's sorrow stream and sealed. Unfortunately, his image was not good. It was no wonder that Zhu Beiji never mentioned his sect in the future and became a pure altar emissary of the Buddhist sect. Other than other reasons, part of it was probably because he did not want to discredit Ren School. When Fang Qingshan arrived at Gao Village, he quickly found Zhu Beiji. The reason was not because of his aura, but because he was too active. Zhu Beiji became the son-in-law of Gao Village. In order to please Old Master Gao and Young Lady Gao, he took over all the farm work in Gao Village. I'm really fated to be in love. Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan could not help but shake his head. The reason why Zhu Beiji was banished to the lower realm was secretly arranged by Ren School, but on the surface, it was because he teased Chong Yi. Now that he was in Gao Village, Zhu Beiji even became a son-in-law for the sake of Young Lady Gao. He was still busy doing farm work like a mortal. He was probably not so diligent even when he became a disciple back then. In addition, before Young Lady Gao, Zhu Beiji had a wife, second sister egg of the Cloudway Cave of Fulling Mountain. Unfortunately, for some reason, second sister egg disappeared not long after marrying Zhu Beiji. Zhu Beiji only said that she died, but it was hard to know what exactly happened. However, it was definitely not as simple as dying. After all, he was also a demon king. Let's not talk about this for now. Zhu Beiji had the potential to live off a woman. He married second sister egg and married Young Lady Gao. He married his second sister and obtained the Cloudway Cave of Fulling Mountain. He married Miss Gao. If he hadn't exposed his identity, he probably would have gotten the old Gao village as well. Fang Qingshan shook his head and threw all these messy thoughts to the back of his mind. He did not want to disturb his happy life and was about to leave. Unexpectedly, Zhu Beiji suddenly raised his head and looked over with bright eyes. It was because Fang Qingshan had leaked his aura, and Zhu Beiji had sensed it. Who are you? Why have you come to Old Gao Village? Zhu Beiji used a camouflage technique to appear in front of Fang Qingshan. What made him feel strange was that he actually felt a sense of familiarity from Fang Qingshan, but he clearly knew that he had never known him before. Fang Qingshan didn't use any transformation techniques either. Being able to be accepted as a disciple by eldest senior brother is indeed extraordinary. Fang Qingshan looked at Zhu Beiji in front of him and felt emotional. Previously, Zhu Beiji had disguised himself as a mortal and concealed his aura, so he didn't notice it. Only now did he feel that Zhu Beiji was no weaker than Monkey Sunday. He had only leaked a trace of his aura, but Zhu Beiji had discovered it. One must know that Zhu Beiji and Monkey Sun were sand monks, but Little White Dragon was different. Although he had also been banished to the mortal world, he had gone through reincarnation and could be considered to have recultivated. However, in just a few hundred years, Zhu Beiji had not only recovered his cultivation to Monkey Sun's level, but his foundation was no weaker than Zhu Beiji's. How could Fang Qingshan not be moved by such talent? Why are you here? If you don't say anything, don't blame me for being merciless. Zhu Beiji couldn't stand Fang Qingshan looking at a junior and said in a low voice. Looking at Zhu Beiji, who was ready to attack at any time, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but shake his head. He knew that if he didn't say anything, he might not be able to escape without a fight. Although his cultivation level was similar to Zhu Beiji's and he might not be afraid of him in a fight, he was still a senior and it wasn't appropriate for him to fight him. Why? Is this what eldest senior brother taught you when you meet an elder? Fang Qingshan said calmly. Elder? Eldest senior brother? Zhu Beiji's heart skipped a beat as he looked at Fang Qingshan suspiciously. When Fang Qingshan saw that, he moved his shoulders and used the one spirit Sanqing technique. There was nothing better than that as proof of identity. One spirit Sanqing. Indeed, Zhu Beiji couldn't help but exclaim when he saw that technique. One had to know that this mystical ability had never been imparted to him in Ren School, even by his teacher. Zhu Beiji almost thought that the Grand Supreme Elder had descended to the mortal world. Fortunately, he had seen the Grand Supreme Elder before and knew that it couldn't be him. At that moment, Zhu Beiji suddenly remembered what his teacher had said back then. In Rin's school, apart from the Grand Master, the only other person was his second Uncle Master. However, his second Uncle Master was elusive. He only appeared once during the Great God-Confirmant War back then and disappeared. However, he didn't expect that he would appear again today and even meet him. It was no wonder that he felt a sense of familiarity with Fang Qingshan, even though he had never seen him before. It turned out that they were from the same sect. So, it's second Uncle Master. Zhu Ganglai greets second Uncle Master. Zhu Beiji bowed to Fang Qingshan respectfully. Forget it. This is not the place to talk. Let's go down and talk. As he spoke, Fang Qingshan took a step forward and arrived at a nearby hill. Zhu Beiji naturally followed closely behind. You're the only disciple of eldest senior brother and the only direct disciple of the third generation of Rin School. It's our first time meeting, so we have to prepare a greeting gift. Fang Qingshan smiled and said, It's just that I'm not like your master. If it's not good, you're not allowed to dislike it. I wouldn't dare. Zhu Beiji shook his head and said, Coincidentally, I just obtained something good. I'll give it to Buddha with borrowed flowers. As he spoke, Fang Qingshan took out the 100 flowers spirit honey that the black bear monster had given him that day. In terms of rarity, it was even rarer than the immortal peach. In terms of preciousness, it could be compared to the 3,000-year-old immortal peach. It could be used as a greeting gift. 100 flowers, spirit honey? As the direct disciple of Rin School and the Heavenly Court's marshal, Zhu Beiji's knowledge was naturally not ordinary. He recognized it at a glance and exclaimed in surprise. Thank you, second Uncle Master. It's good that you like it. Fang Qingshan was very happy to see Zhu Beiji surprised. After chatting for a while, Fang Qingshan could not help but ask the question in his heart. Firstly, as the only direct disciple of the third generation of Rin School, how could Zhu Beiji have an accident when he reincarnated and become a pig? It was not that he was biased, but that image was a little unsatisfactory and even tarnished the reputation of Rin School. Besides, he did not believe that it was just an accident. Fang Qingshan suspected that someone had secretly done something. Chapter 723. However, what made him feel strange was that given Zhu Beiji's identity, who would dare to offend him and attack him? Furthermore, given Zhu Beiji's identity, status, and cultivation level, it was one thing for him to become a son-in-law for the Cloud Stack Cave of Fulling Mountain. It was not like the Bull Demon King had never done such a thing for the Cloud Scraping Cave of Jile Mountain and Princess Jadeface. However, Miss Gao was just a mortal. It's a long story. Zhu Beiji could not help but smile bitterly when he heard Fang Qingshan's question. If anyone else had asked, he could have avoided answering. However, Fang Qingshan was his Ant Master, so he could not be perfunctory. Looking at Fang Qingshan's curious face, Zhu Beiji told him the whole story, greatly satisfying Fang Qingshan's curiosity. It turned out that the first problem was really an accident, and it was heaven's will. As for the second problem, it was a melodramatic drama. He had to start from the beginning. Zhu Beiji was born with a peach blossom, and there was a huge calamity in his life. If he couldn't overcome this tribulation, then it would be a great matter of death. It was just like how when Zhong's teacher had warned him not to meet the end of his life when he left Golden Turtle Island. However, at that moment, the great Taoist Master Xian Du was enough to crush the goddess of Golden Spirit in terms of cultivation level, status, and other aspects. The goddess of Golden Spirit wanted Wen Zhong to use the merit of the human Tao and the destiny of the dynasty to avoid the calamity, but she did not want to fail. On the other hand, the great Taoist Master Xian Du wanted to use the merit of the journey to the west to change Zhu Beiji's fate. As long as he completed the journey to the west, not only would Zhu Beiji be able to break through the calamity, but his cultivation would also be smooth in the future. However, there was a limit to one's strength. Even the great Taoist Master Xian Du could not do everything. As a consequence of changing his fate, Zhu Beiji was reincarnated as a pig. Therefore, it was really just an accident. It was heaven's will. Not to mention the great Taoist master Xiandu. Even I can't do anything about it. In order to send Zhu Beiji to the mortal world, the great Taoist master Xiandu made use of Zhu Beiji's fate. Hence, he teased Chang Yi and was banished to the mortal world. However, Chang Yi was not the ancient Ho Yi's wife. The ancient lich, Ho Yi Shoots the Sun legend has it that Chang Yi was seduced by Liu Ye's mother to avenge her son. The Chang Yi that Zhu Beiji was flirting with was naturally not the ancient Chang Yi. She was merely a palace maid. This kind of thing was very common. If the great canopy marshal had to receive such a heavy punishment for flirting with an insignificant palace maid, then wouldn't the third holy mother and Yang Jian's mother, who had broken the law of immortality, be hacked into pieces? Therefore, this was just an excuse. It was the same as when Monk Sha shattered the glass cup. How could the heavenly court have ordinary items, especially when it was placed beside the Jade Emperor? How could Monk Sha possibly break it by accident? It was just an excuse. Zhu Beiji was banished because he took liberties with Chang Yi. Naturally, Chang Yi did not end up well either. He was also banished to the lower realms for seducing the canopy marshal. Or should we say that Zhu Beiji's life is full of peach blossoms? He really did have some fate with this Chang Yi, because this Chang Yi had been living in the cloud stack cave of Fulling Mountain after descending to the lower realms. She changed her name to Second Sister Mao, which meant rabbit. Second Sister Mao discovered the reincarnated Zhu Beiji and took him in as her husband. She used the cloudy stack cave of Mount Fulling to help him. Therefore, for Zhu Beiji to be able to cultivate to this level in just a few hundred years, she could be considered to have made some contributions. Unfortunately, this second sister, Mao, seemed to be lacking in luck and fate. In the heavenly court, because Zhu Beiji took liberties with her, she was banished to the lower realms under the name of seduction. Now, she took Zhu Beiji in as her husband and helped him with all her might. However, she went berserk during cultivation and died. Even Zhu Beiji was unable to save her. Actually, the reason for this was because Zhu Beiji's fate was too strong. Although they were fated to get married, they were not fated to be together. Of course, it wasn't that they couldn't be together. It was just that if they forced themselves to be together, second sister Mao would suffer a lot. This was somewhat similar to a well-matched marriage. Zhu Beiji was a typical tall, rich, and handsome man, while second sister Mao was like Cinderella. If Cinderella wanted to counterattack, she would have to go through hardships. The first life was an ill-fated relationship, and both were banished. The second life was also not a good one. It ended with second sister Mao's death. The third life seemed to be pretty good, but it was a pity that it was just an illusion. This third life was actually young Lady Gao. Second sister Mao went berserk and died. Although Zhu Beiji didn't save her, with his identity as the heir of the Ren school, he could still guarantee a good reincarnation. Therefore, under his interference, second sister Mao was reincarnated as young Lady Gao. This was also why Zhu Beiji fell in love with a mortal like young Lady Gao. He was loyal to her until his death. During the journey to the west, he repeatedly said that he wanted to return to Gao village. 3 lives and 3 lives. Good things are strewn with setbacks. Fang Qingshan shook his head and sighed. Then he took out a bottle of 100 Flowers spiritual honey and handed it to Zhu Beiji. Since young Lady Gao is my nephew's daughter-in-law, I naturally can't favor one and discriminate against the other. Thank you, Uncle Master. Zhu Beiji didn't refuse and happily took the 100 Flowers spiritual honey. This item was precious not only because it was comparable to the peach of immortality, but also because its medicinal properties were gentle. It was not like the peach of immortality and some high-level pills. If one didn't have a certain level of cultivation, they would only explode and die. After diluting the 100 Flowers spiritual honey with water, even mortals would be fine after drinking it. It could also strengthen one's body and lay a solid foundation. It was especially important for young Lady Gao. The journey to the west is about to begin. I have to continue making preparations, so I won't talk much with you. Take care. After meeting a junior, giving him 2 bottles of 100 Flowers spiritual honey, and listening to a story, Fang Qingshan was ready to leave. Although Zhu Beiji didn't know what Fang Qingshan was going to do, since it was related to the journey to the west, he couldn't help but think of it like the golden horn, the silver horn, and the green bull. He didn't ask much and just said, "Goodbye, Uncle Master." After leaving Gao Village, the next stop was the Yellow Wind Ridge. There was a yellow wind monster on the Yellow Wind Ridge. It was a yellow-haired mink at the foot of the spiritual mountain. It was proficient in the Samadhi divine wind. Even Monkey Sun suffered a great loss from it. It was a monster planted by the Buddhist sections. Naturally, Fang Qingshan couldn't interfere. After crossing the Yellow Wind Ridge, they would reach the Quicksand River. This was not a place where Fang Qingshan could make a move. This was the territory of the Journey to the West team, the representative of the Heavenly Court, Monk Sha. Naturally, Fang Qingshan couldn't replace Monk Sha's position. Therefore, Fang Qingshan didn't plan to go down and take a look. He planned to directly cross the river like the Yellow Wind Ridge. However, at this moment, the timeless arc in Fang Qingshan's body suddenly moved. Fang Qingshan couldn't help but stop. It turned out that there were other treasures in the Quicksand River other than the 3,000 week water. Moreover, Monk Sha probably hadn't discovered this treasure, unless he had completely refined the Quicksand River. Chapter 724. What stopped Fang Qingshan was not the water of Quicksand River, but the sand of Quicksand River. Yes, the water of the Quicksand River was the 3,000 week water. The sand was no ordinary thing either. It was normal. While the 3,000 week water couldn't compare to the triple light divine water, it was still a top water type treasure. Furthermore, its offensive power was also very strong, especially its corrosive power. It was likely that it wouldn't lose out to the water of the Blood Sea. 800 quicksand realms, 3,000 weak water. Goose feathers wouldn't float, and reed flowers would sink. Ordinary things would be completely corroded when they fell into the quicksand river. However, the yellow sand could actually coexist with it, which was a testament to its power. The sand wasn't ordinary either. It was a treasure called the eternal sand of time. Desolation. Apart from dragons, phoenixes, and shamans, there were many other races. 10,000 wasn't an empty number, but more than 10,000. Some have been famous for a time, such as the chaotic beasts of the primordial era. Some were unknown, never remembered from their birth to their destruction. Of course, most of them were stronger than the stronger ones, such as the gold spirit jade bees and the earth bear. Another example was the sand race. The sand race had a great treasure. It was their clan treasure, a superior grade, connate numinous treasure, the hourglass of time. While it was superior grade, it couldn't even compare to ordinary supreme grade, connate numinous treasures. After all, it was a treasure that contained the laws of time. Unfortunately, it was always swept away by the wind and rain. The sand race had been somewhat famous in the primordial era, but they couldn't escape their decline or even extinction. The hourglass of time, a supreme treasure, suffered a calamity and was directly broken. Actually, it was their bad luck. They had encountered the war between Taoists and demons. The demonic ancestor Rahu had set up the immortal slaying sword formation in the West, and even experts like the yin-yang ancestor and the five elements ancestor had been killed. In the end, even the 12th-stage destruction Black Lotus had been damaged, and half of the western continent had been destroyed. Because of this, Daozu had no choice but to merge with the Tao and give Jie Yin and Zhuni 2 sage positions as compensation. That war was no less dangerous than the Great Shaman Demon War. Moreover, it was even better than him. The reason for this was that during the Great Shaman Demon War, everyone knew that Mount Bujo was dangerous, so they avoided it. Even if the heavenly pillar collapsed and the Milky Way flowed backwards, as long as they were not too unlucky, at least they would not be wiped out. Unfortunately, the living beings of the West back then were miserable. When a man sits at home, misfortune comes from heaven. The western continent had been torn apart, the ancestral vein had been destroyed, and the sand race had also suffered a devastating blow. Even the superior grade, connate spiritual treasure, the hourglass of time, had been shattered. This was an old story from the immemorial era, and also the origin of the quicksand in Quicksand River. It was the eternal sand of time formed by the quicksand mixed with the 9 heaven living soil after the hourglass shattered. As for how the 9 heaven life soil and the 3,000 week water came about, that was another story. This matter also had to be traced back. Although it wasn't the primordial era, it was still before the conferred God War, when the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors ruled the world. Before you the Great controlled the flood, the Desolation continent was flooded. Gun and Yu, father and son, were ordered by Emperor Yao and Emperor Shun to control the flood. Earl Chong and Earl Xia were in charge of controlling the flood. Gun controlled the flood by blocking the flood. Wherever there was a lot of flood, he blocked it. In order to stop the flood, he even used the 9 heaven living soil, which was left behind by Nuwa when she created the human race. However, he didn't know that it was better to let it go. Therefore, Gun failed. Yu Zi inherited his father's legacy and used the method of letting it go. However, the flood was not only because of the water, but also because of the demons. After the great sorcerer and demon war, some demons were unwilling to leave the Desolation continent, so they stirred up trouble. Among these demons, there was one that was very strange. Although he also stirred up trouble, his main purpose was not to seek death, but to avoid the disaster. This person was one of the 4 spiritual monkeys of chaos, who was as famous as Sun Wukong. He was also called Wu Zhiqi. Speaking of the 4 spiritual monkeys of chaos, they were really blessed by nature. Sun Wukong, the intelligent stone monkey, knew changes, knew the weather, knew the geography, and could move the stars. Yuan Hong, the long-back ape, could hold the sun and the moon, shrink 1,000 mountains, distinguish between right and wrong, and play with the universe. 6 Ears Macaque, good at hearing, could see the front and back, and knew everything. Wu Zhiqi, the red-bottom ape, understood yin and yang, knew the ways of the world, was good at entering and leaving, and could avoid death and prolong life. However, the heavens were fair. They opened a door for you, but closed a window. Since you were blessed by nature, you would also be envied by the heavens. Therefore, even with Sun Wukong's background in karma, he couldn't avoid being suppressed under the 5 Elements Mountain for 500 years. Yuan Hong and Yang Jian were evenly matched, but in the end, they couldn't escape the great god investiture tribulation. They were trapped by the mountain river map and died under the immortal slaying flying knife. In the end, they were given the title of the 4 useless stars. The 6 Ears Macaque was the most miserable. The cultivation was similar to Sun Wukong, but it couldn't even keep its life. The red-bottom ape naturally had its own tribulation. If it wasn't careful, it might end up like the 6 Ears Macaque. However, it was born with yin and yang, knew the ways of the world, was good at entering and leaving, and could avoid death and prolong life. Naturally, it wouldn't wait for the disaster to befall and wait to be captured. However, such a great disaster couldn't be resolved by ordinary means. The reason why Sun Wukong could resolve it was because of the heaven-nourishing merit. Naturally, Wu Zhiqi was not as lucky as the monkey's son. Since he did not have the karmic luck, he thought of another way, which was to use the hands of those with great karmic luck and great karmic luck to suppress him and avoid the calamity. Therefore, he caused trouble in the Huai River and was suppressed under the Huayin Tortoise Mountain by Yuda. The 4 chaotic spiritual monkeys corresponded to the 4 symbols of creation: earth, wind, water, and fire. Sun Wukong was earth, Yuan Hong was fire, 6 Ears was wind, and Wu Zhiqi was water. He was born with the ability to control water. His ability was better than the Dragon Clan and the Gongong Clan. The Rual water was left behind when he caused trouble in the Huai River. After years of ups and downs, the sand left behind by the primordial spiritual treasure hourglass of time, mixed with the living soil of the 9 heavens that blocked the Huai River, and the Rual water left behind by Wu Zhiqi formed the Quicksand River. Of course, Fang Qingshan didn't know that clearly. He was only sure that it was the Rual water. Although he had been influenced by Mosquito Dowrin and wanted to keep good things for himself, he knew that now wasn't the time. If the timeless arc hadn't been activated, he wouldn't have stopped at all. However, although he had been delayed for a while, Fang Qingshan felt that it was better to find a great treasure as often as possible. There was no need to talk about Ruoshui. Although the eternal sand of space and time, formed from the sand of time and 9 heaven-living soil, couldn't be compared to the original superior connate spiritual treasure, the hourglass of time. It wasn't inferior to ordinary superior connate spiritual treasures. After all, it was a treasure with the attribute of time. Time was supreme, and space was king. This wasn't a joke. Moreover, this was only the combination of the sand of time and the living soil of the 9 heavens. More importantly, the two hadn't completely fused. Chapter 725. A spiritual treasure or spiritual item was fine if it was acquired, but innate treasures had to be accumulated over time. It might be tens of thousands of years, or even an epoch. Innate spiritual items were precious because of the accumulation of time. They contained the laws of heaven and earth. Old people would be considered thieves if they didn't die, let alone innate treasures that had lived for tens of thousands of years. It was also because of the accumulation of time that the eternal sand of time and space had not been fully nurtured. The divine items were hidden, and the treasure light was not visible. Monk Sha had been guarding the treasure mountain without realizing it. He had always thought that the quicksand river only had the 3,000 week water. Monk Sha's strength was similar to the mighty miracle god, but the 3,000 week water was left behind by a zenith heaven golden, immortal redbone horse ape. It contained his will. It seemed like Monk Sha hadn't even finished refining it when he left the quicksand river. Otherwise, Guanyin wouldn't have needed to send traveling Monk Huiyin to help. However, fortune and misfortune came with fortune. It was also because only the 3,000 week water was exposed and not the eternal sand of time and space. Otherwise, even if Monk Sha was from the heavenly court, he wouldn't have been able to defend this place. All the hustle and bustle in the world is for profit, and all the hustle and bustle in the world is for profit. The reason why everyone was willing to give face to the heavenly court was because there wasn't much conflict of interest, or rather, the benefits were disproportionate. However, once the situation changed and the benefits outweighed the disadvantages, the outcome would be different. Not to mention offending the heavenly court, they might even have the guts to offend the sages. The demon race had always been lawless. The 7 sages, 500 years ago, the green-haired lion that devoured 100,000 heavenly soldiers in the lion-camel country, proved this point. Once they knew that there was the eternal sand of time and space here, it wouldn't just be the Western Ox State, South Heaven State, North Continent, Dong Sheng Divine Continent, Buddhism, Taoism, Heavenly Court, and Underworld. If that was the case, Fang Qingshan wouldn't have anything to do with it. Fortunately, everything was still in time. As long as the treasure wasn't nurtured prematurely, no one would notice anything. One had to know that Fang Qingshan discovered this place because of the 1,000-year pagoda and the passing water lantern. He could only sense it when he got close. Without a space-time treasure, without being near the quicksand river, there was no way he could see through it. Otherwise, the quicksand river wouldn't have existed for so long without being discovered. Even before the nurturing process was complete, it was already comparable to a superior grade connate spiritual treasure. What would happen if it was completely fused? What if he added on the 3,000 week water? Fang Qingshan had a feeling that if he could successfully nurture it, it would definitely not be any worse than the hourglass of time. In fact, it might even be better. That was yet another precious treasure. However, now was not the time. Fang Qingshan could only suppress the excitement in his heart. The quicksand river connected Shaki to the east, Zhufan to the west, Yuj to the south, and Tartary to the north. It was 800 miles wide and 10 million miles long, grasping the distant mountain, swallowing the Yangtze River, vast and boundless, spanning the boundless horizon. When it raged, the chilly wind howled angrily, and the turbid waves rose into the sky. When it was calm, there were no waves. Up and down, The sky was blue and boundless. The sand moved with the water, and the water moved the sand. Fang Qingshan did not linger around Quicksand River for long. Firstly, now was not the time to collect the Quicksand River. Secondly, he did not want to alert the enemy and fight with Monk Sha for nothing. If he wanted to collect this treasure, he had to wait until Monk Sha was taken away by Tripitaka and Quicksand River became an ownerless land. Therefore, Fang Qingshan only observed in the dark for a while before continuing to move forward quietly. After crossing Quicksand River, the next challenge would be the Four Saints Zenheart test. However, the journey to the west had yet to begin. These bodhisattvas would not be waiting here like other mounts. Therefore, this place was nothing more than a bare mountain. Therefore, after crossing Quicksand River, he arrived at the Longevity Mountain, the territory of Zhen Yuanzi. Zhen Yuanzi, the same ruler as the world, the ancestor of the earth immortals, the manifestation of the earth spirit. He had the ginseng fruit tree and the earth tome. He did not worship Buddhism. He did not respect Taoism. He only respected heaven and earth. He was a guest of the palace of the purple cloud. He had gone through 2 cataclysms of the evil shaman and the apotheosis of the gods. He was of the same generation as the sages, and his cultivation level had reached the peak of the demigod sage. He was the only remaining powerhouse from the previous generation of the School of Desolation. Even though the Sage of Desolation was recognized as the strongest below the sage, he was still lacking. Even though he had mastered the 3 religions, compared to East Emperor Tai, who had the primordial treasure, he was still lacking. At the very least, if he were to fight against powerhouses like Zhen Yuanzi, Kuan Peng, Fuxi, and Mingyi, it would be hard to tell who would survive. Unfortunately, Zhen Yuanzi and the others still lacked a bit of opportunity and providence. Or else, if they could obtain a strand of primordial violet energy, it would be possible for them to become a sage. But now he could only hole up in the 5 villages temple, guarding his own little plot of land to live. Even so, they could not completely avoid the disaster. As a result, the ginseng fruit tree was pushed down by Sun Wukong and almost lost its foundation. Of course, this happened because Zhen Yuanzi took advantage of the situation to push the boat along the current. Or else, even if Sun Wukong's cultivation level was 10 times higher, he could not even get close to the ginseng fruit tree, much less push it down. After all, Zhen Yuanzi to the ginseng fruit tree was like Fang Qingshan to the tree of world. However, it was not a clone, but a good zombie, an existence similar to the Elder Lord. In fact, the reason why Zhen Yuanzi did this was the same as what the Redbone Horse Ape did back then. They both used someone else to go through the tribulations. The difference was that the Redbone Horse Ape used Human Emperor of Great Yu, while Zhen Yuanzi used Sun Wukong's Heaven-Mending Merit and Journey to the West Merit and Providence. There were 10 top-notch connate spirit roots in the primordial world, Zhen Yuanzi's ginseng fruit, the immortal peach that Fang Qingshan had obtained not long ago, the Bodhi wood in Fang Qingshan's hands, and the Fusong and Munaz manthus on the sun and moon. However, like the 4 chaotic spiritual monkeys, the more gifted one was, the more easily one would be envied. Among the 10 top-notch connate spiritual roots, Juni was the best. Not only did he transform, but he also became a sage. The other peaches of immortality were divided into 3,000, 6,000, and 9,000 years old peach orchards. The gourd vines were uprooted, and the Munaz manthus was trapped on the moonstar, unable to move. The ginseng fruit tree was slightly better as it lived with Zhen Yuanzi. However, he also had a tribulation. In the past, he was always suppressed by Zhen Yuanzi. However, this was only treating the symptoms and not the root cause. If he could not resolve it in time, once it exploded, there would be nothing he could do. Therefore, Zhen Yuanzi took advantage of the journey to the West Tribulation and used Sun Wukong to help the ginseng fruit tree go through the tribulations. To Sun Wukong and the others, this was definitely a tribulation. However, to Fang Qingshan, this was an opportunity. After all, if he could save Zhen Yuanzi's ginseng fruit and cure it, he would have a good karma with Zhen Yuanzi. It might be difficult for others to save the ginseng fruit, but it was easy for Fang Qingshan because he had the triple light sacred water. Chapter 726. Now that Fang Qingshan had the Bodhi tree in his hands, the 9,000 years old peach pit of immortality could grow into peaches of immortality. If he saved the ginseng fruit tree, he could ask for a branch to grow a new ginseng fruit tree. Then he would have gathered the 5 elemental spiritual roots of metal, wood, and water. At that time, it would be very beneficial to integrate it into the world tree to improve its origin or to cultivate the 5 elements. However, like before, it was not the time yet. However, Fang Qingshan had already told Zhu Beiji to wait quietly. At the thought of this, Fang Qingshan was delighted. When Fang Qingshan approached the 5th manor and sized it up for a moment, Zhen Yuanzi, who was standing under the ginseng fruit tree, suddenly looked up and locked his eyes on Fang Qingshan. Fortunately, it was only for a moment, and Zhen Yuanzi did not continue to pay attention to it. Of course, what attracted Zhen Yuanzi's attention was not Fang Qingshan's gaze, but a familiar aura and a karmic line. The familiar aura was from Fang Qingshan, who actually had the pure aura of the Ren school. He had only felt it from the great Taoist Master Xiandu, but he did not know who Fang Qingshan was. Moreover, he felt that Fang Qingshan's karmic line was actually connected to his. After checking, he found nothing. After all, it was the great tribulation of the journey to the west, and the heavenly secrets were in chaos. Besides, it was related to him, so it was even more difficult. Of course, the most important thing was that Fang Qingshan had the timeless arc and the primordial violet qi to conceal the heavenly secrets. However, fortunately, it was only good karma, so Zhen Yuanzi did not care much about it. He had forgotten about it, but he did not know that the glance just now almost made Fang Qingshan doubt his life. At this moment, he felt the same way as Fairy Golden Needle had felt earlier. It was just a glance, and he could not even have the mentality to resist, let alone attack or defend. If Zhen Yuanzi really wanted to deal with him, it would be really effortless. Phew! After a long while, Fang Qingshan let out a long sigh. His pale face gradually turned red, but his back was covered in sweat. Zhen Yuanzi, you live up to your reputation. Zhen Yuanzi, you live up to your reputation. Fang Qingshan could not help but sigh in his heart. Although he had seen a sage, and even seen the primordial Lord of Heaven in action, he could not understand the horror without experiencing it for himself. Even if he broke through to the primordial immortal realm, and the timeless arc advanced to the unparalleled realm, it would still be difficult for him to defeat Zhen Yuanzi, not to mention that he had no power to resist Zhen Yuanzi now. This was the dignity of a veteran expert, and this was only a top expert below the saint level. What about a saint? What about those above sages? Zhen Yuanzi's glance didn't make Fang Qingshan develop inner demons. Instead, it stimulated his fighting spirit. Although he couldn't compare to them now, it didn't mean that he couldn't catch up to them in the future. One had to know Zhen Yuanzi's background and how long he had been cultivating. Fang Qingshan was originally just a mortal. Up until now, he had only spent 10 to 20% of the time compared to Guanyin and the others, let alone Zhen Yuanzi. Therefore, how could he not have the confidence to catch up and even surpass him? Because of this glance, Fang Qingshan's state of mind was greatly tempered and improved. It was also a pleasant surprise. After passing the 5 villages temple, they came to a barren land. There were overlapping cliffs, ravines, and bays. Tigers and wolves walked in a formation, and deer walked in a flock. 1,000-foot-long python and a 10,000-foot-long snake. The python breathed fog, and the snake breathed strange wind. It was really dangerous. Those who did not know would think that they had come to the ancient wilderness. The barren land not only produced unruly people, but also demons. The demons here were corpse demons, also known as white bone spirits. This person was a female corpse that had turned into white bones on the White Tiger Ridge. She accidentally collected the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, received the essence of the sun and the moon, and transformed into a human form. She learned the corpse transformation technique. Her cultivation was not very profound, but she was good at transformation and was best at confusing the naked eye. With the means of Sun Wukong, he finally fell in her hands and suffered a big loss. He was chased away by Tripitaka's band-tightening incantation. It could be said that he was really embarrassed. It was one of the few times that he suffered a setback on the journey to the west. It could be seen that sometimes the means were not superior, as long as they were useful. Fortunately, such means had no effect on Fang Qingshan. Dealing with white-bone spirits was as easy as dealing with General Een on the Double Fork Ridge. Fang Qingshan came to the cave residence of white-bone spirits on the White Tiger Ridge and directly released his momentum. White-bone spirits, who knew better than to fight when the odds were against her, surrendered obediently. She was not dissatisfied. After all, in the demon clan, the strong were respected. What she did not know was that although Fang Qingshan took away her opportunity, he indirectly saved her. Otherwise, he would not have been able to pass the test of Sun Wukong. When a person died, even if he had merit and luck, it was just for the next reincarnation to be better. Even if his soul was destroyed, it would be a benefit to heaven and earth. After passing the White Tiger Ridge, it was the territory of Baoxiang country. There was a moon wave cave here, and the demon in the cave was the Kuei Wood Wolf, a celestial constellation in the sky. This Kuei Wood Wolf was also a lover, comparable to Zhu Beiji, because he fell in love with the fairy girl in the Hall of Fragrance. He went to the lower realm and occupied the mountain as a monster. The difference was that Zhu Beiji reincarnated himself, and Chang, he took the name of Second Sister Egg and occupied the mountain as the king. The yellow-robed monster occupied the Moon Wave Cave, and the fairy girl reincarnated as the princess of Baoxiang country, by Xiao. Unfortunately, just like Second Sister Egg reincarnated as Miss Gao, the past had been forgotten in a bowl of Mengpa soup. Therefore, although they had been husband and wife for 13 years and even had children, they slept in the same bed. However, all of that had nothing to do with Fang Qingshan. This Kuei Wood Wolf was not to be trifled with. He was originally Li Xiong of Jie School, and he died in the 10,000 Immortal Array. Not to mention his methods, just his connections alone could not be ignored. Moreover, the three sects were originally one family: the red flowers, white lotus roots, and green lotus leaves. Just based on this point alone, Fang Qingshan could not do anything to him. Therefore, he did not mention it. Not long after, Fang Qingshan left Baoxiang country and arrived at the Flat Top Mountain. However, he did not stay there for long, because it was the territory of Rin School to begin with. In a lotus flower cave on the Flat Top Mountain, in the gold and silver horn of the Lotus Flower Cave, they had just met in the Tushita Palace in Lian Heaven. After passing the Flat Top Mountain, they arrived at the Wuji country. Speaking of the king of Wuji country, he could be considered to have some luck and wisdom. He was a good monk, and his reputation spread far and wide. Even Tathagata knew about it, and specially sent Manjushri Bodhisattva to enlighten him so that he could attain the golden body of Arhat as soon as possible. Unfortunately, he had the heart of Duke Yi, but he did not have the good deeds of Zhang Liang. After being put in a difficult position by Manjushri, the king of Wuji country did not recognize the true Buddha. He still had the temper of an emperor. He tied Manjushri up with a rope and soaked him in the imperial water river for 3 days and 3 nights. Fortunately, the golden body of 6 armor saved Manjushri's life. Otherwise, he would have been embarrassed. Chapter 727. Who was Wen Shu? He was one of the 12 golden immortals of the ancient Chan school and one of the 4 bodhisattvas of the Buddhist sect. His status was extremely noble, but he actually suffered a huge loss in the hands of mortal. How could he not take revenge after losing so much face? Hence, he reported it to Gautama. Gautama was also unhappy. After all, Master Wen Shu had gone on his behalf. He had good intentions and wanted to take him to prove his Tao, but he did not want to end up in such a situation. Wasn't that a slap to his face? Therefore, he let Wen Shu deal with it himself. Thus, Wen Shu sent his mount to the lower realm and pushed him into the well to soak him for 3 years to take revenge for the 3-day flood. When Shu's mount was not simple. It was even more impressive than the yellow robe monster. It was the only demon who had gone to the lower realm twice in the journey to the west. One was to transform into a king in the Wuji kingdom and cause chaos. To avenge Shu. When he was here, the green-haired lion did not put in much effort at all. It ran away after a few hits. The second was in the Lion-Camel Ridge, where he became sworn brothers with the white-tusked elephant and the golden-winged eagle. If not for Sun Wukong's tricks, he would not have been able to defeat the green-haired lion. After all, he was an inner-sect disciple of Jie School, the Qiu Immortal. He was second only to the 4 inner-sect disciples and Yun Shao. He was not inferior to the original Wen Shu. It was a pity that although Wen Shu had lost the 3 flowers on his head and the 5 qi in his chest by Yun Shao, he was lucky. He entered the Buddhist sect and used the luck of the Buddhist sect to not only recover his cultivation level, but he also improved. It was a pity for the Qiu Immortal. Although he did not enter the god role, he was accepted as a mount by his peers. What was even more insane was that Wen Shu had actually castrated him. What kind of grudge did he have? Those who did not know would think that the green-haired lion had done something infuriating to Wen Shu. In that case, his cultivation level naturally could not improve. Under such circumstances, there was no way for him to turn the situation around. Let's not talk about him for now. After passing through Wuji country, Fang Qingshan arrived at Mount Hao. Now that he was here, Fang Qingshan could continue to attack. Although the demons here were not wild demons like the black bear monsters, who asked him to form karma with Fang Qingshan. The demon of Mountain Hao was actually Red Boy. Red Boy was the same as the white bone spirit from before. He wasn't very powerful, but he relied on the supernatural power of the true Samadhi fire, which caused Monkey Sun to suffer a great loss. He was also an existence akin to a little demon king in the 300 miles of Mount Hao. However, he was nothing compared to his predecessor, Neza. After all, Neza had stirred up trouble in the sea like Monkey Sun and had even skinned the crown prince of Donghai. The reason was that he formed karma with Sect Hao and Fang Qingshan. First was referring to his, was because he was, of karma. The reason why Red Boy knew this divine power was because he had obtained the opportunity in the Flaming Mountains. How did the Blazing Mountain come about? 500 years ago, Sun Wukong kicked over the 8 trigrams alchemy cauldron, and the true fire and golden bricks poured out of it. The sect, Emperor of Hua, he of Yang school of them, was Yang. Red Boy used the true fire in the 8 trigrams alchemy furnace to cultivate the true Samadhi fire and form karma with Rin school. As the 2nd generation direct disciple of Rin school, Fang Qingshan was in the right to subdue him. Even his father, the Bull Demon King, and his mother, Princess Iron Fan, could only suffer in silence, not to mention Guanyin. They cannot blame Sun Wukong and think that he was the one who caused Red Boy to be captured. The other was Princess Iron Fan. Princess Iron Fan's name was Rakshasa. She had a palm leaf fan in her hand. Combining those 2 points, it was not difficult to tell that she was from the Blood Sea. Speaking of the Blood Sea, one had to mention the Nether River. Speaking of the Nether River, one had to mention Mosquito Daoran. Mosquito Daoran was Fang Qingshan's clone. If it was related to Mosquito Daoran, it would be related to Fang Qingshan. It was just that he couldn't put this out in the open. That was because once he said it, the Nether River would not be the only one who would cause trouble for him. There would also be Jean and Juandi. At that time, even he might not be able to protect him. After all, he had destroyed their sect's treasure. That was also the main reason why he did not let Mosquito Daoran follow him. Although Red Boy's true Samadhi fire was not bad, it had no effect on Fang Qingshan. Not to mention the true Samadhi fire. He had even smelted the Red Lotus Hellfire back then. In fact, he was not the only one. Even Sun Wukong was not afraid. The reason why he was defeated was because he had a gate of life that was not considered a gate of life. Back then, Sun Wukong snatched the Dragon Palace, broke into the Netherworld, and caused havoc in the Heavenly Palace. It was all planned by the Saint. Not only did the Grand Supreme Elder specially refine the 8 Revolutions golden pill for him, but he also borrowed the 8 trigrams alchemy furnace to help him smelt it. As a result, he obtained the fiery golden eyes and the invincible Vajra body. Sun Wukong's original body was the heaven-mending stone. Back then, even the 8 trigrams alchemy furnace did not burn him to death. Instead, he achieved an indestructible body. How could Red Boy's true Samadhi fire do anything to him? The bad thing was that he had the fiery eyes of truth. The fiery eyes of truth could tell good from bad. It was a top-notch eye technique. Unfortunately, he was afraid of being smoked. Rather than saying that Sun Wukong was burned by the true Samadhi fire, it would be better to say that the smoke hurt his eyes. Just like in the Yellow Wind Ridge, rather than saying that he was injured by the divine Samadhi wind, it would be better to say that he was blinded by the yellow sand. Otherwise, why would he be fine when he was hit by the banana fan at the Flaming Mountain? Let's not talk about this for now. When Fang Qingshan arrived at Mount Hao, he saw that the mountain towered into the clouds, as if it was connected to the blue sky. The mountain was extremely deep, as if he had entered the underworld. In front of the mountain, there were white clouds, black fog, red plum blossoms, green bamboos, green cypresses, and green pines. Behind the mountain, there was a soul-trapping platform. Behind the platform, there was an ancient and strange demon cave. In the cave, there was a dripping spring. Under the spring, there was a winding stream. With one look, one could tell that it was a dangerous place with demons. In particular, from afar, one could see a fiery cloud rising into the sky. Needless to say, that was Red Boy's withered pine stream, where the name Fire Cloud Cave came from. The reason why there were fiery clouds leaking was that Red Boy's cultivation was not up to par. He could not control it as he wished. As a result, the fire chi leaked and evolved into fiery clouds. Red Boy, your master is here. Come out and welcome me. Fang Qingshan came to Withered Pine Stream and said in a clear voice. Yes, Fang Qingshan planned to take Red Boy in as a disciple. As the son of the Bull Demon King and Princess Iron Fan, Red Boy's talent was not bad. He had refined the true Samadhi fire and was fated within school. If he took Red Boy in as a disciple, he would have good karma with Princess Iron Fan and the Bull Demon King. After all, he was not like Guanyin who took him in as a disciple, but as a disciple. When the time came, Fang Qingshan only needed to show his face to easily resolve the conflict and take the merited journey to the west. In addition, he could also give an additional perfected immortal Rui. In other words, the Womanland and the Reincarnation Spring were in trouble. It could be said to be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Chapter 728. However, by doing so, he had formed an irreconcilable karma with Guanyin. One had to know that the most active person in the journey to the west was Guanyin. Whenever Monkey Sun had a problem he could not solve, he would first think of Guanyin. If he was truly in trouble, he would seek out Bodhisattva. As for Guanyin, not only was she at his beck and call, she would even join Old Mother of Blackfall Mountain and company. What was the reason? Wasn't it for the merit from Providence? Why did the journey to the west have such great merit from Providence? Apart from the prosperity of Buddhism and the suppression of the demons, the most important reason was to mend the Western ancestral vein. This was equivalent to mending the heavens. The West had always been called a land of barbarians by the East. Wasn't the Western ancestral vein destroyed by Fiend Ancestor Ro during the Taoist Fiend War? It resulted in the decline of spiritual energy and the scarcity of spiritual items and numinous treasures. Even the production of geniuses was pitifully low. As a result, Juni had no choice but to come to the East for the sake of Buddhism, resulting in him being called the 1 feet higher sky. Once the Western ancestral vein was repaired, it would not be weaker than the East, even if it did not surpass the East. This was truly great merit for the heaven and earth. It was just like how Nuwa mended the heavens and Hutu transformed into samsara. By perfecting the heaven and earth, there would naturally be great merit and light from Providence. If someone obtained this merit, even without the primordial violet chi, They might be able to create an existence similar to the three sovereigns and Lady Pingxin. This was something that no one in the world, apart from the Buddhist sects, wanted to see. The Buddhists had two saints to begin with. One was the number one person beneath saints. He had countless experts under him. Even the mortal, Severing, and Chan schools combined could match him. If there was another such figure, how were others to survive in an era where saints could not appear? Therefore, there was a situation where the various factions split up. They would either follow the journey to the west, set up calamities, or lend a helping hand. Of course, the ones with the greatest merit were Tripitaka and Monkey Son of the Journey to the West team. Therefore, after the journey to the west was over, they gained merit and broke through to the quasi-saint realm. Next was Guanyin. His merit was above that of Zhu Beiji, Monk Sha, and the Little White Dragon. This was also the reason why Guanyin's name almost surpassed Manjushri and the others in one fell swoop. Even Tathagata's name was sometimes not as good as hers. Unfortunately, everything had changed. First, Fang Qingshan told Sun Wukong about the journey to the west in advance at the Shuansha Ridge, which ruined Guanyin's plan. Then, he subdued the black bear monster that he had been coveting for a long time at the Black Wind Mountain. Then, he snatched the opportunity of Wuzhuang Taoist Temple and Xinyuanzi's karma. Now, he wanted to take away the boy of good fortune that he had reserved. If Guanyin knew about this, he would definitely fight to the death. Cutting off one source of wealth was like killing one's parents. Stealing another's fortuitous opportunity was an irreconcilable enmity. Guanyin wanted to use the merit and luck of the great tribulation of the journey to the west to advance further and become one of the top people below the sage. Fang Qingshan had ruined his plan. He would probably kill Fang Qingshan even at the risk of offending the Grand Supreme Elder. He was not like others. Fang Qingshan had a background, but so did he. As one of the four great bodhisattvas of Buddhism, his identity, status, and reputation were not inferior to Tathagata. In the future, whenever Buddhism was mentioned, Guanyin would be mentioned. This showed how terrifying his incense was. Even if he killed Fang Qingshan and the Grand Supreme Elder wanted to take revenge, Zhuanti and Guanyin would stop him. Guanyin was too important to Buddhism. But even so, Fang Qingshan would not care. The Great Tao was fighting. He only snatched Guanyin's fortuitous opportunity, which was already good enough. At least he did not make the world his enemy. Although Guanyin was powerful, his real rise was after the journey to the west. The current Guanyin, Fang Qingshan was confident that he could still deal with it. As long as he made the first move and succeeded, he would succeed. As for Guanyin's threat, when he really understood and found trouble with Fang Qingshan, how could Fang Qingshan not have a way to deal with it? In the withered pine stream, Red Boy, who was having fun with the little demons, suddenly heard Fang Qingshan's words. He was stunned at first. He did not have a master. Then he was furious. Someone actually dared to take advantage of him, the baby Sage King. In an instant, the door of the cave of fire cloud opened. A group of demons in charge of the carriage pushed out 5 small carriages. They were arranged according to the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. These chariot arrays were taught by the Bull Demon King. The purpose was naturally to allow Red Boy to better unleash the true Samadhi fire. After all, he had not been able to fully control the true Samadhi fire. Otherwise, there would not have been burning clouds above the abode. Then a boy walked out arrogantly. His face was as white as powder, and his lips were painted red. His eyebrows were like crescent moons, and his face was glowing. Taoist, who are you? How dare you pretend to be my master? Do you not want to live anymore? Today, if you do not tell me the truth, I will let you have a taste of the true Samadhi fire. Hee hee. Fang Qingshan chuckled. You keep talking about the true Samadhi fire. Don't you know that it's my family's mystical ability? I don't blame you for secretly learning it. I've already accepted you as my disciple for your father's sake. If you don't kowtow and acknowledge me as your master, what are you waiting for? That's nonsense. Red Boy sneered. My true Samadhi fire was learned from the flaming mountain beside my mother's cave abode. It's not your family's mystical ability. Then do you know how the Flaming Mountain came about? Fang Qingshan asked with a smile. I heard that Sun Wukong caused havoc in the Heavenly Palace 500 years ago and kicked over the Grand Supreme Elder's alchemy cauldron. Red Boy answered without hesitation. In that case, this item belongs to the Grand Supreme Elder, right? Fang Qingshan smiled. I'm a disciple of the Grand Supreme Elder. In that case, do you think I'm your master? This, Red Boy was stunned. According to Fang Qingshan's words, he could really be considered his master. But what kind of person was Red Boy? He was the son of the Bull Demon King and the descendant of Princess Iron Fan. He was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. He could get whatever he wanted, and he relied on the true Samadhi fire to intimidate others. How could he be moved by a few words from Fang Qingshan and bow down to him? If you want to be my Hong Hai-er's master, then let me see if you're qualified. As soon as he said that, Red Boy stretched out his hand and took the fire-tipped spear from the little demon beside him. Like a poisonous dragon coming out of its lair, he stabbed it straight at Fang Qingshan's chest. Fang Qingshan could not help but shake his head when he saw that. Red Boy was too young, and he was doted on by Princess Iron Fan and the Bull Demon King. His abilities were all based on the true Samadhi fire and the reputation of his father. He had not even completely refined the true Samadhi fire, so how could he be proficient in martial arts? In Fang Qingshan's eyes, this spear was full of loopholes. It could not be fast or strong enough to uproot a mountain. Fang Qingshan merely flicked his finger. Clang! The crisp sound of metal colliding rang out. Fang Qingshan did not move at all, but Red Boy's fire-tipped spear flew out of his hand. He flew back like a kite with a broken string. Chapter 729. Your Majesty, Your Majesty, Your Majesty, what's wrong with you? How dare you hurt my Majesty? Give me your life. Seeing Red Boy, who used to be invincible, being easily defeated by Fang Qingshan, the little demons under his command could not help but turn pale with fright. Shut up. Because Fang Qingshan showed mercy, Red Boy was not seriously injured. He scolded coldly and looked at Fang Qingshan with a serious expression. Although he was arrogant, he was not a person who did not know what to do. Seeing that Fang Qingshan flicked his fire-tipped spear away and made it retreat without hurting him, he immediately knew that the person who came was a real expert. However, if he wanted to become Red Boy's master with this kind of skill, it was still not enough. In the Western He-Ok state, those big demons would not stoop to Red Boy's level because of the Bull Demon King's reputation, and Red Boy would not provoke them. But it was not that he had never defeated demons who were more powerful than him. His real ability was never martial arts, but supernatural powers. Set up the array, Red Boy bellowed. He took a step forward and was already standing on a small carriage in the middle of the array. In the next moment, the array behind him moved. Not bad, not bad. Looking at the array, Fang Qingshan could not help but secretly nod. It was indeed the array of the GS school. It was indeed worthy of its reputation. Yes, the array that Red Boy set up was inherited from the GS school. The real origin of the Bull Demon King was the Grandmaster of Heaven's Mount. That was why he could become the leader of the 7 great sages and make a name for himself in the demon race. That was why he could gather in the forest in the Western He-Ok state, the territory of the Buddhist sects, and marry the Rakshas's daughter of the Blood Sea. That was why he was not afraid of karma, and let Red Boy refine the true fire in the Flaming Mountain and cultivate the Samadhi true fire. All of this was because he was the Grandmaster of Heaven's Mount. As long as he did not go too far, other experts would not care about it. Although GS School had been defeated in the God Conferment battle and the 10,000 immortals had collapsed, it was almost difficult to hear the name of GS School. However, it was not said that a saint would always be a saint. Although GS School was no longer the same as before, no one dared to underestimate it. After all, not all the disciples of GS School had died in the Great God Conferment War back then. Instead, they had entered the God role and occupied almost 1/3 of the forces of the heavenly courts. As a result, the Jade Emperor regretted it a little. He couldn't do anything about it. As the protector of the Chan sect, Erlang Shun listened to the tune but not the orders. The disciples of Jieskul only knew about the kin Palace Demu, who was also the goddess of golden spirit back then. They did not know the Jade Emperor. Back then, the havoc in the heavenly palace was just a farce. It had been planned long ago. However, it also made the Jade Emperor lose all his face. And all of this was because the Jade Emperor could not mobilize the true experts of the heavenly court. The mighty miracle god, the curtain-lifting general, and the others under him were not Sun Wukong's match at all. It was impossible for his hidden strength to be exposed because of a farce. That was why he seemed to be running like a wolf. Speaking of which, because the Bull Demon King was the mount of the Grand Master of Heaven and was not a disciple, he knew the array formations of Jieskul like the back of his hand. Even if he had only passed a relatively simple array formation to help Red Boy control the Samadhi True Fire, it was still very mysterious. Fire! Red Boy stood on the carriage and roared. With one hand clenched into a fist, he punched his own nose twice. Fire! The little demons under his command also chimed in. Following that, Red Boy spat out divine fire from his mouth, and thick smoke came out his nose. The five-element chariot under his feet also surged with flames. As Red Boy used his mystical abilities, it felt like the wind was helping the fire, and the fire was borrowing the power of the wind. In an instant, the entire fire cloud cave was set ablaze, and smoke covered the sky. Chi! Chi! A series of sounds were heard. The flames in the sky rose from the bottom to the top. The heat actually melted the nearby mountain walls. There was even a burning smell in the air. Unfortunately, whether it was the smoke or the true fire, they could not do anything to Fong Qingshan. Smoke disperse, Fong Qingshan said softly. As soon as he finished speaking, a strong wind suddenly rose and swept across the world like a tornado. With a stir, all the smoke was sucked away, and in an instant, only the flames were burning. Fire extinguish, Fong Qingshan said again. In an instant, it was as if a heavy rain had poured down and extinguished the true fire. In an instant, the sky turned blue after the rain. This is impossible. Seeing that scene, Red Boy was dumbfounded. He did not expect that his most powerful technique could not withstand 2 sentences from Fong Qingshan. It was as if his words were the law. One had to know that even his father, the Bull Demon King, would be covered in dust if he accidentally fell into the Samadhi True Fire. It was not that he had never seen an expert who was not afraid of the Samadhi True Fire. However, even though he was not afraid, no one had ever been like Fong Qingshan, who destroyed his mystical ability with a few words. Red Boy continued to use his mystical ability in disbelief. Streaks of scarlet flames whizzed out like giant pythons. However, the flames were automatically extinguished after leaving Red Boy's mouth for less than 3 feet. In the end, he only stopped when he exhausted all his dermic powers and collapsed on the carriage in exhaustion. How is it? Show me what else you have. Fong Qingshan looked at Red Boy with a faint smile. Oomph. Do you think I'll yield just because you defeated me? Dream on. Red Boy was a little stubborn. As the son of the Bull Demon King, I can only die standing, not kneel to live. Isn't it just taking in a disciple? Do you have to be so serious? If not for the merit of the journey to the west, do you think I want to take in a troublesome person like you and a Fen Guanyin? When Fong Qingshan heard that, he could not help but secretly roll his eyes. Good, well said. At that moment, there was a sudden clap of thunder in the clear sky, as expected of the son of the Bull Demon King. Good, you have guts. As soon as he finished speaking, the sky parted like a curtain, and a huge golden beast stepped on the air, raising its front hooves and roaring loudly. The sound waves rolled, and the surroundings were silent. On the golden majestic beast sat a 3-meter-tall, broad, dark-skinned man with bull horns on his head and frightening bulging muscles. His eyebrows were as red as the rainbow. His mouth was like a blood basin, and his teeth were lined with copper plates. The people who came were the Bull Demon King and his mount, the golden crystal beast. What a treacherous kid. Seeing this scene, and seeing Red Boy raise his eyebrows proudly, Fong Qingshan could not help but curse in his heart. He had been hunting geese all day long, but today he was being pecked in the eye by the geese. Those who could leave such a strong mark in the journey to the west should not be underestimated. But it turned out that when he saw Fong Qingshan flicking his finger and sending the fire-tipped spear flying, and was not afraid of his true samadhi fire, Red Boy knew that things were not good. Therefore, while he continued to use the true samadhi fire, he actually secretly crushed the communication jade talisman given to him by the Bull Demon King to inform him and buy time. Chapter 730. Don't panic, your father is here. As soon as the Bull Demon King appeared, he saw such a scene. Red Boy fell weakly on the carriage array, his face pale, and his body seemed to be hollowed out. Fong Qingshan stood calmly at the side, with a faint smile, a typical demonic cultivator. Needless to say, Fong Qingshan must have bullied Red Boy. The Bull Demon King did not care what had happened. Anyway, he only saw that Red Boy had been wronged. He stood on the side of his kin, so he directly attacked Fong Qingshan. What a demonic cultivator! How dare you attack my son? Give me your life. As soon as the voice fell, the Bull Demon King directly sat on the golden-eyed, aquaproof beast and punched. His body did not move, but his fist moved like a dragon. The fist, like a divine hammer, entered the void and, without any warning, appeared on Fong Qingshan's chest. Good. Seeing this, Fong Qingshan's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light. Without dodging, he also punched. The crystal fist bloomed with infinite splendor. The whole world darkened, as if all the splendor was concentrated on the fist, or the splendor of the fist covered the light of the world. Dong! The fist and the palm collided, and a muffled sound of thunder exploded. Fong Qingshan's body involuntarily retreated more than 10 steps. When his feet landed, it was as if a bell had been hit, and a huge pit was blasted. Although the Bull Demon King remained motionless, the golden-eyed, aquaproof beast under him whimpered and lay on the ground. Good. No wonder you dare to bully the son of the Bull Demon King. You really have some skills. The Bull Demon King stared at Fong Qingshan with his big eyes. His whole body's momentum was like a prison, sweeping towards Fong Qingshan with an earth-shattering momentum. Seeing this, Fong Qingshan did not explain. He stared back, not to be outdone. His qi and blood were like dragons, and his essence qi was like a beacon, soaring into the sky. The invisible collision of qi made the whole sky above the fire cloud cave feel as if a storm was coming, and the dark clouds were pressing down on the city. Again, at a certain moment, the Bull Demon King stood up, took a step, and came in front of Fong Qingshan. Once again, he threw a punch over. I was waiting for you. Fong Qingshan's eyes widened, and he swung his fist almost at the same time. Dong! 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 The two fists disappeared almost at the same time. Above the 9 heavens, there was only the sound of the collision that was like steel that had been tempered 100 times. It was like the beating of a heavenly drum or the ringing of a divine bell. Their movements were so fast that it was hard to see them clearly with the naked eye. In a trance, it was as if 2 beams of light were intertwining. A streak of black light, heavy, powerful, unyielding, almost tangible, like a dragon rising from the ground. A ray of golden light, agile, ever-changing, swift, illusory yet real, like the movement of the stars. The 2 silhouettes were as fast as a startled swan. Their attacks were like a violent storm. The silver bottle was broken and the liquid was spurting out. The cavalry charged forward. The sound of swords and spears rang out. In the blink of an eye, it was unknown how many times they had exchanged blows. Ripples spread out one after another like the tide. Before the first wave subsided, another wave rose. Although they were fighting in midair, the How Mountain beneath them was inevitably affected. The earth shook and the mountains shook. Sand and stones flew everywhere. A good blessed land had been turned into a foul atmosphere by them, with chickens flying and dogs jumping about. Good heavens, this was the world of the journey to the west. Otherwise, if it had been a lower-level world, it would not have been able to withstand their torment. Mountains would have collapsed, rivers would have stopped flowing, time and space would have been shattered, and the people would have been plunged into misery and suffering. Fortunately, the world was stable, and they stopped fighting. Haha, good. Ever since Seventh Brother wreaked havoc in the Heavenly Court 500 years ago, I have never felt so refreshed. The Bull Demon King was also in high spirits, and he laughed happily. Let's try our weapons again. As soon as he finished speaking, he took out his weapon, the chaotic iron rod. Take this. As soon as he said the word rod, his aura shot up into the sky. A dim light appeared, like a poisonous snake spitting out its tongue. Mana flowed on the rod, and it struck down. For a moment, the wind and clouds in the sky surged, as if a pillar supporting the heavens had fallen. The rod's shadow danced in the air, swallowing the mountains and rivers. Even the void seemed to have been pierced through. Let's fight. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Fang Qingshan narrowed his eyes slightly. He grabbed at the void and took out the all-heavens sword. He drew a sword flower, and the sword chi was like a rainbow, like a misty rain. It turned into a hazy shadow and slashed diagonally through the turbulent force. The blade hummed like thunder, but it was as light as a swallow. The sword light only touched the rod slightly. It was either yin or yang, soft or hard, hard or soft. It borrowed the force to slash diagonally, move the stars, and met force with force for a moment. The veins on Fang Qingshan's neck bulged. His black hair danced wildly, and his clothes fluttered. Countless dense patterns appeared on his skin. They were all laws. He had refined his body to the bone. However, in the end, Fang Qingshan was still inferior to the Bull Demon King. Even though he had tried his best, he still could not turn the tide. The Bull Demon King was indeed the Bull Demon King. After all, he was the sect leader of Tongtian's Mount. Although he was not as good as the direct disciples of the Treasures of Abundance, the Black Bear monster could not be compared to him. In terms of cultivation, experience, skills, and talent, the Bull Demon King was better than Fang Qingshan. If this went on, he would probably be defeated in less than 100 rounds. Transform. Fang Qingshan was not one to be outdone, especially when he had finally met an expert like the Bull Demon King. Seeing this, he naturally did not want to give up or be suppressed by him. However, if he wanted to turn the tide, it was not good to take out the spirit treasure. Firstly, it would be somewhat unfair. Secondly, if he had the spirit treasure, wouldn't the other party also have it? After all, the Bull Demon King was not alone. He did not believe that the sect leader of Tongtian did not give him some powerful Dharma treasures. Therefore, he had no choice but to unleash his trump card. However, Fang Qingshan moved his shoulder, and 3 figures came out, turning Sanqing with one breath. Seeing this scene, the Bull Demon King was taken aback and cried out in shock. He had seen this mystical power with his own eyes. During the Great God Confirmant War, the sect leader of Tongtian used the immortal slaying sword array, although it was the 4 sages who worked together to break the array. However, at the beginning of the test, he used the one-breath Sanqing to make the sect leader of Tongtian suffer. Therefore, the Bull Demon King had a fresh memory of this mystic skill. Wait! Seeing that Fang Qingshan and the 3 clones were about to surround him and attack him, the Bull Demon King hurriedly called for them to stop. Firstly, he was very clear about the power of this mystical power. Even if his cultivation level was higher than Fang Qingshan's, he would still be at a disadvantage in the battle. It was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. There were 3 more experts of the same level. Their combat power had been increased several times. Moreover, this mystical power was a secret technique of Ren school. Even the great Taoist Master Xin Du had not been taught it. However, Fang Qingshan actually knew it, which meant that his status in Ren school was not to be underestimated. In that case, it would be like a flood rushing towards the Dragon King Temple. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.